and welcome back once again. Thanks for sticking with us through the break. We are here with the official English broadcast of the Overwatch Pacific Championship. If you are just tuning in now, my name is Matt Pixie Carroll, and joining me here to take us through our last match tonight is Matt Smite Ross.
Hiya.
And we are going to see Machi Esports. Let's take a look at them right about now.
大家好，我是 M17的 Restia。我们的优势一定就是我们还年轻，然后我们的潜力很大，然后大家都有拼劲去努力去进步。
我觉得战队的优势就是在于说，我们的选手都非常年轻，但是他们的实力已经跟一线的选手都差不多了。
尽全力打到最好，然后打向冠军。
我并不期望一开始就一路顺风，但我相信会在逆境中去学习到一些东西。
我们现在重心放在团练上面，途中一定会有很多很强劲的对手，那我们都会把他们一一击败。
我们在场上的蓝露珠表现，希望大家也会爱上我们，打败闪电，然后拿到冠军。
未来也继续支持我们 M17，相信我们可以得到冠军。
相信我，冠军之后一定是我们。希望大家可以见证 M17拿下冠军的历程吧。
And they are going to be playing off against, coming fresh off a win against Sun Sister, Fireball. And I just want to say, man, I'm a sucker for those Letterman jackets that Machi have. That looks so great.
Pretty fantastic.
Yeah, let's take a look at what Fireball are wearing. Oh, it's just shirts.
ผมชื่อพีทนะครับก็จุดเด่นของทีมเนี่ยที่สังเกตได้ชัดเลยคือทุกคนในทีมค่อนข้างเป็นคนที่อารมณ์ดีมี attitude ที่ค่อนข้างดีการก็รู้สึกเป็นพี่เป็นน้องมากกว่าครับเรื่องทีมเวิร์กก็ต้องสะสมไปเรื่อยๆก็รู้สึกกดดันนะครับเพราะว่าในไทยก็ยังมีผู้เล่นอีกมากมายแต่ว่าในการที่เพื่อนร่วมทีมเลือกผมก็ตั้งใจทำเต็มที่แล้วคิดว่าตัวเองมีความสามารถพออยากเป็นผู้เล่นที่ดีที่สุดในงานนี้เลยครับฝากติดตามผลงานกันต่อไปนะครับก็ขอบคุณทุกกำลังใจที่ส่งมาครับผมก็สู้ๆครับผมหวังว่าทีมเราเนี่ยจะสามารถคว้าชัยชนะมาได้แล้วเอาชื่อเสียงเนี่ยกลับไปให้คนไทยทั้งประเทศนะครับให้ช่วยส่งกำลังใจเชียร์ด้วยแล้วกันนะครับผมเราจะทำให้ดีที่สุดครับเราทำให้ประเทศไทยมีชื่อเสียงมากกว่านี้ครับ
And like I said, that is Fireball coming fresh off a win against Sun Sister. So we kind of said that this is maybe a kind of watershed moment for them. The point where it all starts looking up. I mean, the losses they had taken were against what is really the strongest teams in the tournament so far. So it's only up from here, having picked up a win against Sun Sister. Can they do it against Machi?
Well, I mean, so the way they beat Sun Sister, it was just so one-sided. They were clearly the better team at this point in time, which means they've already proven that they're not sitting at the bottom of the table along with Sun Sister, who has yet to get a win. This match, and I said it before the break, is going to decide whether they deserve to be around that fourth, maybe even third place position, because this is going to be really where it counts to prove that they can get up to the middle of the pack. Still not in the top three, even if they do win here, but it's definitely going to be the right step to get on the path towards their championship trophy, which they talk about in their video, or Machi did anyway.
Yeah, well, and the thing is as well, in a strange way, right? Because we've got those teams now that we're pretty certain of the top four, we've got Blank, AHQ, Flash Wolves, and Hong Kong Attitude. That's really what we're looking at here. When you're a team like Fireball, who has only picked up losses against those teams, now win against another team at the bottom of the standings, much like what I was saying at the top of the day with the Poodle back on MA Lakers, they now have nothing to prove, right? They've got nothing to prove anymore. They may pick up some wins, they may not, and that gives them a ton of room to grow. Maybe they do pick up a win against Machi here, maybe they pick up a loss a little bit later down the line, maybe they just kind of middle along through this first round robin. Then maybe in the second one, they pick up a win against Machi. Then maybe in the third one, they pick up a win against AHQ and Flash Wolves, right? That's the kind of trajectory that teams like this end up on if they can make the most out of moments like this. And with that in mind, let's take a look at the lineups. Here's Machi.
So superstar right away has got to be Rai, incredible Pharah, soldier player on the offense, but also along with him, coupled well, is Nonez, playing things like Genji Tracer, the flanking hero. Then you've got Kiyomi and DCR1, Kant and Restia, who we saw in the video, rounding everything out. I mean, we hype up a lot of the DPS players a lot, but it's got to be said for Machi there.
Yeah, well, Fireball as well, you just saw them previously, but to recap, Apudo and NZNR, the two offense players, Zalf's their tank, Kurlos and Rocket, duo support, and then Ninth as their flex player. And both of these teams actually quite similar, the only difference being that Machi have a flex offense player, not just a raw flex player. So what that says is they may tend to favor that triple offense over going 2-2-2, but both of these are teams that have that as an option, running 2-2-2 or running triple offense.
Fireball also have been swapping things around. Rocket, hey, he's been on Winston basically the entire tournament so far, and this is something that they talked about during the interview as well, and it's how they're adapting, how they're changing things up, getting their team ready for a composition that is going to be great with the dive, getting them on Winston. It also allows them the flexibility to run things like triple DPS compositions. I don't believe they ran any triple DPS against Sun Sister, but it might be something that they have to do against Machi. D.Va as your second tank is not always going to be the right answer. Sometimes there are going to be team compositions where you do need to run triple DPS to break through a brick wall of a team.
Yeah, so it is going to be,
He's ruining it.
Yeah, I don't think he realizes his teammate is doing the heart.
I mean, that's adorable.
That was nearly touching. So the thing I was going for, just a moment ago there is, unlike last game, Machi are now the ones with the home advantage. Previously it was Fireball against Sun Sister, and they were able to take Ilios for that control, which was so comfortable for them. They really looked totally in control. And that's a map that, you know, you can tell in an ideal world they'd maybe like to take against Machi here to pick up that extra win, to set themselves off on a good footing. Machi, since they are the ones with the home pick, they are going to avoid Ilios like the plague. So I guarantee we're going to see something like Li Zhang here. We may see a Nepal, because I think Machi did pull it out yesterday, but probably Li Zhang. It tends to be the safety for all of these. Actually, it is Nepal right there. So there you go. We're going to see Nepal, which is again a bit of a safety one, but I feel like this is slightly less safe than Li Zhang. So this is kind of an interesting one. And what do we reckon? What do we reckon about Nepal, Fireball Machi?
Nepal is a map that you can, once again for Fireball, throw out a Farah and maybe even Mercy composition, but mostly on only 2 out of the 3 maps, right? Because on Shrine and the other one, Sanctum? No, the third one. Village, that's it. On Shrine and Village, outdoor map, plenty of area for Farah to fly up around in the sky. It's a little bit trickier to play on Sanctum, but there's a trade-off because there's a very big open bottomless pit that Farah can take big advantage of.
If you do get inside, there is enough vertical space that they're actually completely right there. But that's also postulating that they're going to go for the Farah. They used a lot on Ilios, and then they did use it, I think, once after that. And that was it. We actually mostly saw them running different combinations of DPS between Genji and Soldier. So they've got a lot of flexibility in that regard. And I think that's something that puts them in good standing on Nepal, where, like you said, some things are a little bit more favored to one thing than another. And that's not quite as true for Li Zhang, and it's the complete opposite for Ilios, because Ilios is like, you can just take one thing throughout the whole thing if you're good at Farah.
Apparently, yeah.
As it turns out. So yeah, a bit of a different kettle of fish, but I actually feel like it's one that can play to Fireball's strengths here. I'm surprised to see this over Li Zhang Tower.
So on this map, I'd expect Fireball to run, once again, Rocket on that Winston. I really doubt they're going to play much Reinhardt. They said they weren't too comfortable with it so far, but what this means is that Apudo may not have as much freedom to swap over onto that Roadhog, because very likely they're going to want to run a D.Va as well. You can't really have D.Va, Winston, and Roadhog. It's a little bit of an awkward mix there when you're running triple tank. You usually want something like a Reinhardt as your main anchor tank. So Apudo probably not going to be an option on the Roadhog, which means we're likely to see him on Tracer, which is going to put... that's only if NZNR ends up going on the Farah. Now, if things change up a little bit, we might actually get to see Apudo on McCree, which is one of my favorite heroes to see Apudo play on. He's got such an incredible aim on that hero. It's absolutely insane. Although I believe NZNR, was it NZNR during the last series, actually played it quite well. No, it was Night Owl. Night Owl did, and he actually got player of the game where he got something like 10 headshots in a row. Might be exaggerating a little bit, but
felt like it.
It felt like
Felt like 10. Might as well have been 10.
But the point is, Apudo, excellent McCree player. If NZNR does go for that Tracer, expect to see McCree coming up for Apudo.
Yeah, and what we actually saw when NZNR was pulling out the Farah was Apudo was running onto that Tracer. And we had even said that he wasn't as strong a Tracer as NZNR, but I mean, he really kind of showed his chops there. So, bit of an interesting thing, and I feel like with that in mind, I'm not saying that this is, you know, a thing I know about this team or something I reckon they're going to run, but in pure theory crafting terms, I feel like they are a team that could make great use of Orisa, especially on these maps. They say that they don't really fit well with having a Reinhardt. They don't have a super strong Reinhardt player. Orisa is a little bit of a different thing, and comboed up with something like a Pharah, it's super strong. It struggles with hit scan heroes on the same team because of how the displacement works. It's hard to actually keep aiming through that. Pharah, though, with the splash damage, you get splash damage onto like 3 people that you've caught with the Orisa right click, and then you get the Tracer in to clean them up, and you get a triple kill.
Well,
on paper.
On paper. I mean, if you could just get a team wipe every few seconds with the halt ability from Orisa, then I think more teams would be running it. But unfortunately, there's a little bit more to it than that.
Yeah, well, it's like Ana though. I mean, it took a long while for Ana to really work her way into the meta. So eventually we will see Orisa, but it's certainly not going to be today.
This is what I want to see from Fireball. Apudo on that Genji. I talked up his McCree, but his Genji is definitely respectable, especially after the last series. Machi though, this is a death ball comp.
Yeah, and a very dangerous looking one at that. Kant known as a great lander of hooks, DCR1 as well. Barely solving that Reinhardt, but he does have some issues with overextending. We'll see if Fireball can take advantage of that as they do pick Kiyomi. Good start for them. And DCR1, there's that aggression I was talking about. He needs to be careful not to overextend. They do lose Rocket to a boot. That's unfortunate. Matching now with the respawns. They lose Rai though. That is one crucial DPS loss. It's still kind of anyone's game here, but Fireball are the ones on the point. Apuda going to go hunting. Oh, Rai down with a deflect. A second time going to die. And now he's looking to get Restia as well. Needs to be careful not to get booped up, but he is just going to be fine. But now it's actually Machi who have sat on the point. So despite a good round of kills, Fireball didn't quite have the positioning to make the most of it. They are going to back off and live to fight another day. Ooh, losing Rocket. That's bad news.
This is the time for Machi to move back onto the point. They can't let anyone sneak out of it. Restia, though, has the mobility to move back and forth to contest the point. It's already halfway picked. They need to get onto it.
They lost Cat. Oh, that is tight. They have very nearly capped that one. And now actually Machi are kind of coming onto this in disarray. They did get the cap. And that is a huge pulse bomb catching the 2 in it. Machi are going to have to go into full retreat just for kind of messing up their positioning there and getting punished hard.
They can move back in, especially through this choke point. I believe that they are much better suited for moving through this choke point than a lot of other compositions because they do have the big Reinhardt shield they can just move through. Reinhardt is off on the other side though. DCR1 may be looking to get a bit of a cheeky play, but he will be protecting Rai. That's going to be the key thing.
Here we go, the nano boost out. I was about to say eyes on Apudo, and here he goes with it running. Oh, hooked up though. Good news for Kant there as he takes 2 ultimates out of the picture with 1 good hook. Now NZNR trying to keep the skirmish going, but he's not really finding anyone. They are holding onto the point. That's the crucial thing. They've lost the healer. I think this is Machi's moment to go, and here they are committing now with a whole hog available if they need it, but they don't need it. They just get the frags and secure the point. Yeah, save ults they do as they get a nice cap.
They've got quite a lot to work with, particularly coming up on that Graviton surge. If they can march forwards, and here they are, they're at the choke point. Graviton is going to be absolutely huge here, but we've seen it a few times in the tournament so far. Don't let it get eaten by the defense matrix. Ninth will be all over that. He'll be recognizing this is a great place for them to use Graviton surge. I will have defense matrix ready.
And this is what Machi are known to do. So if Fireball have done their homework, they'll know it. They're actually going to get diverted off to the side to try and deal with Apudo, who's just going to jump back on. They might have given the rest of Fireball an opening. Let's see if they can take advantage of it. They actually have so far. Yeah, and Apudo's still kind of behind them. He's forced right out of the picture, and they do start getting the picks. They've lost Nonez. That's bad for them because they needed that Graviton so crucially. Now Kant opening with the whole hog, but he's low, so he's actually having to retreat while he's doing it. And now Fireball, they're kind of coming in with a lot of momentum on their side. Already the Cat, despite barely having a numbers advantage, and now they can commit ultimates when they're already on the upper hand. They get Kant out of the picture. Now they're closing it out on DCR1, and this is a great set of plays out of Fireball.
This is really good for Fireball right now. Apuda picking up a few staggering kills. If they can pick up the Zarya here, they get him. Wow, this is so much time for. This essentially means that Machi only have 1 more team fight to go, and look at what ultimates Fireball have. Graviton Surge and the Dragon Blade. This is basically a team wipe if Machi walk into it, and as a death ball composition, there it goes.
Apudo, he wants it. He's not even going to use the blade just yet. They kind of just want to get the kills, but that was maybe a greedy way to go about it because 1 good bio grenade stopped that in its tracks. Did buy them time though, point up to 80%, and Fireball, they can commit more ultimates. They don't have a nano boost this time, and they do lose Rocket. They lost Kurlos too. That was the transcendence that they so crucially needed, and Machi are just getting the sheer frags now as Ryan in a great position. They do have the time to get onto the point. Fireball are at least in a position where they only need 1 fight to win it, but they need to win that 1 fight.
Machi are winning this they've come back on, they've used a lot of good macro decisions to get there, throwing out a sound barrier. But the thing is, Fireball are matching it. Apudo holding onto that Dragon Blade was the direct result of hearing the sound barrier going out, realizing, okay, this is not going to get a team wipe. We may lose this point here. I may need to use Dragon Blade to defend, and he's ready. He's here to go to take it back. They need to win one more fight, and they can actually cap the point here. Machi, they've only got a nano boost to work with, but Rai about to come up on the attack visor. This should shut down Apudo.
They lost Kiyomi. They lost the nano boost. Yeah, Rai is forced off to the side. Apudo, he is opening this one up, looking to get Nonez. There's the Transcendence to keep them going. Now he's going to go after the two tanks. This is get Can. DCR, one great Earth Shatter, but no follow-up as Apudo knocks him out, slices through that entire Crusader armor. Rai opens up with attack visor, but Knight has that one dealt with handily. Kiyomi finally respawns, and there's no one alive to nano boost. 99%, no one to touch the point, and a good cap for Fireball. That was a tight match, but Fireball played it just cleaner.
I'm super impressed by the macro coming up from both sides, recognizing what ultimates they're needed to win the fight, get the goal of actually capturing the point, but in the end, also winning the round. And that was on Fireball doing it better there, where they managed to the key thing was when Apudo didn't use Dragon Blade during that. They threw out a Graviton. It caught, what, 3-4 members in it. Sound Barrier would have kept them alive because they had Zarya bubbles on top of that. Dragon Blade would not have wiped them there. If Apudo had used that ult during that fight, they wouldn't have had the tools needed to go into the next fight when they had 97% to cap the point and win. Macro decisions, ladies and gentlemen, win you rounds.
Yeah, that was still really tight though. I'm impressed by Fireball so far. And you know what? Because this is looking so close, I want to get your guys' thoughts on it, dear viewers. Hit us up on Twitter, hashtag Fireball win, hashtag Machi win. Pick your winners. Let's see how this one goes, as already Machi swinging out on the top of this one. They lose a couple of members of their own. It's really hard to call this, but it does look like Fireball with the numbers advantage will be able to set themselves up on the point.
And Fireball essentially just run on top of Machi. Even with the numbers disadvantage, Rai was up in the sky not connecting the hits, even on the choke point, which meant Fireball just had the numbers advantage to walk all over them, and Apudo got quite a lot of ult charge, but mostly NZNR during that. Now he's going to be close to the pulse bomb, and if you can connect this, that's going to be enough to keep the snowball rolling, where they can hold on to a few ults for every single fight.
And that's something that Fireball are actually really good at. They've got pretty tight macro. I mean, we know that Machi do too, but is it tight enough to overcome the good micro and macro of Fireball? Let's find out as the fight breaks out. Kiyomi already low gets picked off, but Fireball have lost two. Now the fight really chaotic here as Can eats a pulse bomb. He's going to live through it, but NZNR closes out a few more for his team. Yeah, Fireball, they're just on top of this one, and Kiyomi is only alive because he just barely respawned. Oh, this is so great out of them.
Yeah, not committing very much to that at all. In fact, only the Pulse Bomb and NZNR. He's a third of the way to his next one. Now look at what they've got once more. They've got basically a one fight there with Apudo, Dragon Blade, throw a Nano Boost into that. That should be enough for them to win the fight, especially if Machi don't go into this with the ults that they need, which is going to be a Dragon Blade of their own. But hey, look at that. They're not running an Ana. They've got Kiyomi on the Zenyatta. No Nano Boost for Nonez.
And now let's see what else they can get right. I mean, really, he's too low to keep this one going. Oh, but he's going to look for Kurlos, who's got no support on this one. He's ducking and weaving around this pillar. Oh, but there we go. Apudo down and out for the count as Machi just kind of open it up swinging with a bunch of their ultimates. They've actually still got a few as well if they need to keep this one going after the cap, which they can well do. And suddenly they swing it right around and they have the ultimate advantage.
And it's time to be a little bit critical about some of those macro decisions there. Apudo throwing out the Dragon Blade when 3 of his teammates had died. Not a good call there. Yeah, maybe it might have saved the game for them there and actually entrenched them on the point being unstoppable, but at the same time, that's now an ult that they don't have. The risk just did not pay off.
Let's see what ults they can use here for this one. Machi already losing Kiyomi. How many times are we going to see that happen? Is they're about to lose their second healer? The pulse bomb out from NZNR does find Nonez, and there's only one trade back, taking out Kurlos. Fireball just come back swinging. They pull all the ultimates out of Machi. They keep a chunk of their own up, and they recap the point.
And from what I'm seeing here so far, Fireball just have the mechanical skill on their DPS players. NZNR and Apudo are just all on top of the right targets. And also, praise to Rocket on Winston. He's there a lot of the times as well. Sometimes he dies at the start of the fight. It's not fantastic, but most of the time, he's in there with the DPS players getting the kills.
And again with a great flank. Apudo did go down. Yeah, the self-destruct just to turn it right back around. And again, Fireball looking to have it in their favor. They've still got more ultimates they can commit to this. They've got Rocket holding onto one. They do lose NZNR, so no pulse bomb to come up during this fight, and Machi, they feel they have the members to keep this one going. Let's see what else they can find now. Rai hunting for the Ana. He doesn't find it, goes back to the fight instead. there's still no ultimate out from Rocket. Apudo has a Dragon Blade. He's going to pop it out to try and close this one out. And Machi is starting to crumble despite keeping the fight going for so long. They couldn't close it out. And it is Fireball who closed them out instead, set up handily at 2-0.
Fireball are on a roll, and you can just see it on your screen there. They're absolutely stoked to start winning these matches. They won their first best of 5 today, 3-0, and at this rate, they are just outclassing Machi. First round looked a little bit closer, but after that one, honestly, just the pure mechanical skill coming out of some of their players is just what is deciding a lot of these fights. Kiyomi being taken out at the start of 2, maybe 3 fights on that round was just not what Machi needed. It basically lost them the fight in all of those rounds there. Only once did they manage to move in and take the point off of Fireball. But the fact is that he is constantly dying. He didn't even get Transcendence once during that.
And the only time we've really seen Machi take it to Fireball is when they pick Apudo at the start. And even then, in that very last fight, that wasn't good enough because Fireball kept it alive long enough for Apudo to come back and swinging. Let's see if they can turn it around here at the last minute for this game 1.
Now this is different. Rocket is going to be on that Zarya. This is saying that they're more relying on NZNR and Apudo to do a lot of the killing, throwing shields on them, keeping them alive, and that's exactly what they do.
Kiyomi, he's so vulnerable on the Zenyatta. He refuses to change, and he keeps getting picked out. How long can that really last for? They do get knifed out of the mech, but so many members of Machi are low. They lost Right as well, and Apudo is continuing to wreak havoc now on the team as they retreat. That's so hard for Machi. They can't even get out safely, let alone win the fights.
It was such a one-sided fight as well. Fireball are so far ahead in their ultimate charge, mostly on their tank players, their healer players, where Machi, Kiyomi's barely above a quarter towards his own Transcendence. This is looking like it's going to once again be a map where Kiyomi doesn't even reach his Transcendence. He needs to start playing a lot safer, and at the very least, communicate with his teammates, make sure that they're there to protect him. It's happening this time. He's got Ninth there to protect, Count there to protect him with the defense matrix. That is what needs to start happening. He needs to stop dying at the start of these fights with his team backing him up.
Machi do have a few ultimates coming up for them if they can leverage them and draw a few out of Fireball, but it's no such luck as Apudo just goes to town. They only needed the 2, the Nano Boost and the Blade. I need to call it a tactical visor. I'm so used to that combo, but they clean up the rest of them as well. That was no alarms and no surprises out of Fireball.
Well, he was the last one to die that time.
He learned. He did better.
Or if we look at it from a different point of view, he died at the start of the next fight. Which is where they needed to regroup. But
he died so late, it was early.
So Machi were at least recognizing what was happening where Kiyomi was dying at the start of every single fight, and they were protecting him. The difference is that was 3 fights deep into this round where Fireball had a massive ult advantage, and Apudo just went completely ham.
Yeah, well, Kiyomi may just be able to get a Transcendence this time around. The point already quite ticked up. Still a good number of ultimates in the bank for Fireball as Machi commit to this one. A lot of ultimates used already as they pick Rocket, but he got a Graviton off. There hasn't been much following. Yeah, there hasn't been much following. Now here comes Nonez opening up with his Dragon Blade. They look like they're going to be able to secure this one out just through sheer ultimate advantage. And holding on to a couple, crucially the Transcendence, means they may be able to set themselves up with an ultimate advantage here.
This is much better by Machi. They're recognizing what's going on, protecting Kiyomi, and this time, without having an ultimate disadvantage and nano boosted Apudo ripping through your team, they actually fight on even terms. They throw out Nonez with his own ultimate, without a nano boost, by the way, and he actually manages to cover up. Now, the difference is how well can they hold? They've got Transcendence, a perfect defensive ultimate, but it's going to be against Apudo, who will be nano boosted.
They committed it super early, and DCR1 got put to sleep on the side. Nonez is now in full retreat, and they're in disarray. Fireball can take advantage of this. Kant trying to do what he can. He does have a self-destructive Fireball overcommit, but they've lost a couple of members. Apudo got nothing with the Dragon Blade, and actually Machi is still continuing to hold, despite this fight starting in a very unfortunate way. Fireball just losing too many members.
A big reason for that as well was Kurlos managed to throw out his nano boost just a little bit too late, and Apudo just didn't manage to get anything out of his Dragon Blade either. So Machi, they've entrenched themselves, they've stabilized, they're sitting at 50%, so it's still a few more fights they need to win, but they bled a lot of ultimates out of Fireball. Apudo is still miles away from his Dragon Blade. Nonez, on the same foot though, didn't get quite as much out of his own Dragon Blade, but at least they're not committing 2 ults to it. There's no nano boost committed on him.
They don't have many ultimates left though, Machi, and I mean, Fireball don't have many either. They're just kind of equal with these pulse bombs. Let's see who gets what. Rai committing his, doesn't get anything with it, but they're trying to close out on Kurlos. But Fireball is standing on the point. Machi, they're backed off. They're not actually contesting it as NZNR is just harassing their backline. Yeah, now they're starting to kill as they close out Rocket and Kurlos, looking to get knifed out of the mech. Apuno was low, but he was able to successfully retreat. He's now going to come back into this fight now as M17. Machi, they're just doing so much better this time around. And the point is just ticking up this whole time anyway. Fireball in full retreat. They don't actually have time to get onto this. They're going to be trickling on. They need to top up the health of their members here though, Machi, or they're going to end up in trouble. Nona still has a Dragon Blade to commit as Rocket is ulting on the point with a few seconds left. Let's see if he can really close anything out or whether he's just going to buy seconds. But there's no kills being closed out on either side.
Don't forget, an ulting Winston is 1,000 hit points worth of ultimate charge.
Apuno gonna go ready to close this out. I don't even know what I'm saying. I'm just excited, but he's dead. It's not gonna happen. Machi with DCR1 with his ultimate now is keeping the point on lockdown for long enough. Oh no, Fireball! Oh no, they capped it! Machi hit DCR1. He stepped off the point and he allowed Knight to cap the point. I don't believe it. They're gonna cap back though. They are gonna be able to cap back in at 99% as well. It might just be a double 99. Is there an overtime? Yes,
the overtime reset though.
Yeah, and Fireball can get back on this one. They can touch the point, though Machi do have the ultimate advantage. Now they got the numbers advantage, the sound barrier for a health advantage. They're just getting everything they can as Nunez opens up. He's got 3 with this one now. They're looking to close this one out, and surely that will be it, getting one back on the board for themselves any second now, as soon as they get this Diva out of the picture, and that is a good turnaround for Machi. We have a match on our hands.
So it turns out when you go into a fight with even numbers, you actually stand a chance of winning this time. And Machi, they recognized that and really identified how they were losing the fights in the previous 2 rounds, and even at the start of the Shrine map. And Kiyomi just suddenly got like 50 bodyguards. He had Diva constantly standing on top of him. Kant was protecting him with defensive matrix just permanently, and it kept him alive. In fact, one of the fights he got a double kill, so good on him. But the fact is that they had a 6th member during a lot of those fights. No one was stuck out by a pulse bomb at the start of every fight, and because of that, they managed to get themselves onto the point, which was the big thing, and then keep an ultimate advantage.
That was pretty incredible. I mean, the first one was close. The second one looked like Fireball were just a little bit better than Machi through and through, but Machi, once they secured that point, they actually really kept it on lockdown. Now we're back onto Sanctum though, where they lost on the very first map they played against Fireball here. So let's see if they figured it out, if they can have a bit of a different result this time, or whether Fireball just put one on the board.
Sanctum was a lot closer though for Machi. They actually managed to come back quite a lot, but they ran the exact same composition, and Apuno and NZNR had a lot of fun with this one, flanking around that Reinhardt, finding different positions and angles to get a lot of free damage on and a lot of free picks as well. Look at this.
Not finding it quite so easy this time, as it seems there's just a little bit more defense here for these squishy healers, and they're setting themselves up on the point. Now Fireball are going to have to retreat these flankers and commit them onto the point to make the fight happen. And yeah, keeping all the tanks topped off. They're doing a great job here. Still no picks just yet. Sleep Dart goes wide there.
I think the big difference this time is Machi are running Kant on Diva instead of the Roadhog. Diva can just hold right click and suddenly Apuno and NZR can't get the kills on the backline.
Oh, Nunez, he's going to have to go down here. That's going to be the numbers advantage at long last for Fireball. They did get the cap in there as well, and Apuno opening up with the Dragon Blade, and just by out-aiming, they're able to get more ultimates up to secure the point for themselves. But Machi will now be able to come back with a few ultimates of their own.
Yeah, Fireball committed quite a lot to actually capping the point there, but like you said, Nano Boost is available on Kiyomi. Who's he going to throw it on though? Rai doesn't have tactical visor. Are they going to wait to hit Boostio? Fun fact, you actually shout out Boostio when you throw the Nano Boost on him in this patch.
That's the most important update of this patch.
Exactly right. Nothing like the assault percentages or the Lucio rework, just the voice line.
Yeah, well, in any case, let's see if they can leverage those things. Yeah, they've got DCR1. They do favor putting it on that Reinhardt as well. Let's see what they go for, though. They've got a sound barrier to commit when they need it, and they've got a lot of ultimates here. Still none used just yet. Now they finally go, as the Earth Shadow was committed as well. They're trying to get the kills, but they're actually not getting anything. Finally exposing out Apuno. NZNR trying to keep the harassing on the flank here, but he's kind of run out of people to flank. Oh, he catches Kiyomi there, but Kiyomi had already done the work by committing the ultimate. There's going to be Rocket committing a Graviton, but there's no... I was about to say there's no damage follow-up, and I was caught a liar. NZNR. That was super tight play there as they combo the two together and completely demolish Machi's fight.
Oh boy, Machi still yet to get back onto the point. They still have some ults to work with, but with no nano boost, what is Rai going to be able to do? He has to wait for Ninth to be out of the mech. Tactical Visor is completely useless if D.Va is just going to eat all of the damage. Nones, though, has the Graviton Surge. That alone is usually enough to wipe a team. DCR1, though, has swapped onto Winston, though, instead of that Reinhardt.
Trying to keep this one going. Now, Fireball are going to commit themselves a sound barrier very early, and it's so that Apudo can just carve up this back line. It's going to work out for them, and they're buying themselves a ton of time. Yeah, 90% actually. Machi, it's enough time for Fireball that they've bought. Cat just commits an ultimate onto the point, but it doesn't find anything. He was looking for a hero play, and he will at least buy them a bit of overtime, but I don't know if it's enough overtime to get the rest of the team onto the point. Here's Rai now. Rai's dead already, and they're just going to go into this in a 4 versus 6. Restia dead as well now, and there's the self-destruct to force Machi off the point for a few key seconds. No one's actually going to touch it. Oh, dearie me, and that's Fireball picking it up 3-1. But this is for sure going to be a closer series than what we thought it might have been.
Absolutely. I mean, Kant over the series definitely adapted to how his team was being dived relentlessly by both Apudo and NZNR. And it's not the triple pulse bomb. I'm surprised by that.
That's so disappointing. I mean, this is an equally sick play of the game. Let's make no mistake. But Cat, pulse bomb. That is the pulse bomb you dream of.
I mean, there could have been 3 more members in there, which would have been even better, but...
Actually, no, yeah, that's the pulse bomb you dream of.
That's the pulse bomb you dream of.
This was the one you daydream of. Where
exactly.
It's like, it's cool, but like it's not the craziest thing your mind can possibly come up with. In any case, for those of you who are just joining us, we have just come out of Nepal, where Machi unfortunately went down to Fireball 3-1, but a much closer game than... Well, actually, I think it's a lie to say it's a closer game than we were expecting. At the top of the day, as we were on our way in, I was saying I felt like this was going to be a clean 3-0 for Machi. After watching Fireball, I felt like, Fireball take down Sun Sister, I should clarify. I felt like it was going to be a clean 3-0 for Fireball. I don't think this is going to be a clean 3-0 for anyone anymore.
I believed in Fireball. I thought they were going to be the ones to take down Machi. I always knew they were going to take down Sun Sister.
Now I believe it's going to be a game 5.
Well, oh, really?
Yeah, that is my bold prediction.
Fireball.
And I don't even think it's that bold.
So the difference between these two teams so far has been that even though Machi managed to take 1 map off the pole from Fireball, it seems like Fireball and Machi are just about even on how their macro decisions are made. But Fireball, I've got to say, take the edge in how their DPS players are just that much more skilled. Apudo and NZNR are just doing a much better job. And even though Machi are reacting to that and getting Kant put onto bodyguard duty, it's still not enough. And I think that is going to be the reason why Fireball, I'm predicting a 3-0.
Well, and if you remember Sun Sister as well, they were using Odinkun as a bodyguard when they were fighting Apudo was just tearing their backline to shreds. And when it wasn't Apudo, it was NZNR. So
what was the result of that series?
Yeah, it seems like part of the strategy even for Fireball is to force someone to play bodyguard duty and they go, all right, cool, we've solved that problem. We're keeping the healers alive. But actually they've got 2 members of the team that are so tied up by just one flanker and the other one has free reign, and Fireball just have all of this space to play the game, and that actually seems to be a big part of their strategy right now, and it's working. It worked against Sun Sister, and now it's starting to work against Machi. Machi need to identify that quick smart.
Yeah, I mean, they've already shown that they can identify problems, and one of them being Kiyomi dying at the start of every single
Seems the problem is
fight.
we lost the game.
Yeah, I I that one's a pretty easy one to identify.
Yeah. And it's got an easy fix too, because you just win instead.
Yeah, Korean advice.
Just win the game.
Yeah, just win the game by killing your opponents and making them lose the game.
Yeah, and the way you kill them is when you shoot your gun, make sure you're aiming at your opponents.
So what if you don't pick a character with a gun? That's your first mistake, I guess.
No, because then you're mercy, you just aim it at a teammate and you're fine.
Ah, you're right.
And then all you got to do is not die, which is part of killing the enemy team, is not being killed.
Are you telling me that there's more to Korean advice?
Yeah. It goes very deep. Not only do you want to kill the enemy, you also want to not die.
Oh my lord, I've got a lot of practice to do.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you're gonna have to really dig your way out of bronze now. So, so the thing I want to touch on now is now we're gonna see Fireball's map pick, and we're gonna see Hybrid. They just played King's Row on what was not their map pick. I wonder if we're gonna see it again, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see Hollywood purely so that they can give Apudo and maybe even NZNR on that Pharaoh all the space in the world. Hollywood is the map to do it on.
I think Apudo would definitely excel on Hollywood because there's a lot of positions for him to sit back on. King's Row, it's a little bit similar, but you don't have the same amounts of line of sight onto the point itself.
Much narrower.
And we'll get into that a little bit when we actually get into the map, but the percentage change in the patch as well, how basically there are going to be no more ties on these maps anymore.
No.
which means that
Rest in pepperoni's golden point.
You need to constantly have an eye kept on these on the point itself, and there's more options to do that on Hollywood than there are on King's Row. And so Apudo on Soldier could definitely excel there. There's also the option to put him onto Genji if you want to be able to dive around. Hey, never mind about King's Row. We're going to Germany.
Here we go. This is one of my favorite maps, full stop, man. Oh, Eichenwalde, what a treat this is going to be. And yeah, Fireball's pick. This is one of the maps we haven't seen so much of. And I think the one other time we saw it was Fireball picking it.
I think so. I think it was day one.
Yeah.
Day one it was picked.
It was very early on, and I think I'm quite sure it was Fireball who picked it. Maybe someone can actually just go back and dig through VODs.
I think they picked it against Hong Kong Attitude.
Yeah, I think you're actually quite right there. So this is a map that they like. This is a map that they want to play, and
I mean, they lost, but
well, that was that. This is now. And Hong Kong Attitude, I mean, we've been saying the only teams they lost against were top 3 teams. I mean, that's still true, even if Fireball were the ones to pick the map. So they did just beat a team that picked a map as well. Like, picking the map doesn't mean you're going to win, because pretty much everything we've seen has been a 3-0. That is to be expected,
so
right? Eichenwalde, let's take stock about this, because I know exactly what you're about to say. There is a new change. There is a change to Eichenwalde on this patch.
Exactly. It's if you've been playing on live, you'll probably have found it, but it's just essentially just one more path for the attacking squad to take. Eichenwalde, it's pretty infamous for that choke point at the bridge. Pretty hard to get through. Some people like to sneak a fire around the side. It's more of a solo, more of a solo queue strategy, in my opinion.
Yeah, it doesn't really work.
I don't think it's nearly as effective.
The team just kind of pulls back, kills the Pharah, and then kills the rest of the team.
Exactly. I still think there is a lot of room for a Pharah to work on this. Absolutely. There's a lot of great positions for Pharah to block line of sight from anyone that can duel against her. Most notably being, Soldier or McCree, which would be Apudo would be the biggest problem. But also, yeah, with the new path added on, it just means there's one more additional option for them to get through. It's still going to be through a tight choke point, but you can approach it from different options. What this means is that someone like Tracer or Genji can actually sneak through that path a little less noticed. You have to keep your eyes open a little bit more as the defenders.
This is such an interesting map as well. And actually, of course, before this change on this patch, there was another change previously, which there has been now a decent amount of pro play on, but that's, of course, the change on the last point there. After you take the door down, now you get crumbling rocks in the space there instead of a second door. So it's got a little bit of a block, so you can't just get like a straight line through, but you can actually pass through it. It's a little bit more opened up than it used to be, which makes holding after a team has kept that point a little bit trickier. So this is a much more open map than what it was when it was first released, and I feel like that opens up how these teams can kind of play on it. I think that's also naturally something that is going to favor Fireball. Let's find out. Oh, is that going to be a Widowmaker?
Is that going to be a Symmetra? Probably not.
No.
That'd be really
I would like for it to be a Widowmaker. That is one of the ways you can break these first points, and it's one of those things that we know Fireball can do. We've seen it on a Puto. Here we go. There's going to be the swap.
Yeah, Widowmaker finds a lot of trouble on Eichenwalde. There's not many great positions for them to find. Honestly, I don't think it's one of the greatest ones. So instead, they're going to be opting for double dive, Enzidana, Apudo on the magical dream combo of Tracer and Genji once more.
Yeah, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Exactly right. But they are going up against Restia on that Torbjorn, a little bit trickier for the diving. I mean, look at that. Enzidana loses half his health bar already.
He's spotted it out, though. They know what they're up against. And Apudo is going to find a different flank for this one to try and get him behind the turret. Yeah, he needs to take out Kiyomi or someone first. He's looking for it, but with the grenade on him, he's not going to find much. They've got 2 picks, though. They've lost Rocket, but they find the healer. They've just kind of broken it wide open, and Apudo's ruse actually worked like a charm. It's only 2 tanks, and they're just kind of stuck in this building with no healers and no support on them. So this is going to be a nice clean wipe. They got some very early kills here, but they weren't early enough for Machi to be able to come in and contest. And in one foul swoop, Fireball take first point.
And the key thing that Fireball didn't even give me time to talk about was that when you're up against a Torbjorn, you need to take that assault very, very quickly. Otherwise, his armor starts stacking up. The enemy team just gets too tanky to take down. But the big thing as well is he got a swift strike on half the team, including the turret, which means so much health was already gone. They simply sent Rocket in to do the rest of the job. Rocket died, but the rest of the team was there to clean up. And there was a very fast cap on the first point. And it gave them enough time to take positioning a little bit further ahead.
Also, by the way, sneaky microplay. Kiyomi had actually thrown out the grenade onto Apudo before Apudo did any damage, so they didn't get the extra healing off it. But onto what's happening now is, again, Machi just kind of getting destroyed. Fireball, they're not even using any ultimate advantage. They're just out fragging. They're playing to the most basic of strengths here. And Apudo will soon have a Dragon Blade after killing Rai here, so they can keep this one going as they just break the next opportunity for Machi to find a choke point.
The trades were going a little bit even, but the key thing is that the the payload itself was actually still moving during that, and the respawn advantage is just slightly in favor of Fireball on that side of the map. Now it's going to shift over to Machi here, especially as they move on to the high ground. They're going to have a big positional advantage up here, keeping their healers nice and safe. But with the Puto Dragon Blade, so much mobility, I don't expect them to live for very long.
And with all of the ultimates in the back pocket, all they got to do is get one pick to open it out, and as known as they find, here goes the Dragon Blade to kill Restia. What else is he going to get with it? It's not a lot. He might find Rhino. Rhino's going to go on the retreat here. They've got a nano boost onto DCR1, but he's isolated. There's no follow-up. They've only got the one kill, and they've already taken out that the guy who got that kill. So Fireball going to keep it on rolling. They do use a few more ultimates, but I mean, they'll take it. They're about to kill Kant here. That's some nastily staggered respawns.
Kant's going to just use his ultimate and basically force him to go through 600 hit points once again. But the other thing about that is that 600 hit points of ult charge that they're now given.
Yeah, and they've got enough ultimates here, Fireball, that I think they're having to take him.
Someone help him!
Yeah, what is he doing over that side? There was just no support for him. DCR1 nearly went over the edge, but that actually means he had to commit the ultimate just to stay alive. That's not really ideal. I mean, he should secure the fight for them, as Rocket looks like he's about to go down here, but Fireball, with that much distance and still just over 3 minutes left to go, they should be pretty happy to just kind of pull back and try this one a second time around.
And this is where Machi will be able to stabilize. They've got a even amount of ultimates compared to Fireball, but the great thing is that the payload is so far away from where Fireball spawned that now Machi have the defender's advantage, the respawn advantage. Although with that early pick at the start, that might be pretty deadly for them. They might just jump on this opportunity now.
Two early picks, yeah. And that's the two anti-flankers on this team. The payload is moving. That was two ultimates, two high DPS characters. And yeah, the payload underway now as the team is going to have to commit to this fight here. The sound barrier to keep the team alive now for Fireball, but Rocket goes down. Aputo still holding onto that Dragon Blade. Now he's going to open it out to try and secure this fight, but he's in a bit of a tough spot. He has got two with it. That's what they need. Nonez not getting the same kind of mileage in his own Dragon Blade, and with a couple more kills, they should be able to secure this one. Again, they're going to be getting the D.Va out of the mech. Yeah, the Pulse Bomb Eden. There's actually two tanks here to contest, and actually it looks like Fireball aren't going to have quite enough damage out of just this Tracer.
Yeah, and it was like I was saying, Machi have a big respawn advantage here. The payload is very much easier to hold at this point because Machi can just get to the point a lot quicker. They're going in. Was that a nano boost?
It was. There was, yeah. They're really committing to this one out of Kurlos, and they are sort of making it work, but they haven't quite closed out the last few crucial kills. This could just be a bit of an overcommitment out of Fireball if they don't secure kills now. They're starting to lose a bit of health on their tanks, and they've just lost the Puto. They're going to lose Rocket as well. Too low there to keep the fight alive. This is not going to be an easy retreat for Ninth. He's just going to take a dive, and Fireball is starting to run out of time.
And this is really quite similar to the second stage of Assault maps, where every single kill will count for the defending team when the payload is so far away. This is one of the longest runbacks for a team on a hybrid map on the second checkpoint. Right now, Machi can just get one kill here and there, and their respawns will come in. Things are swapping up for Fireball. They've got a minute and a half. Kurlos will need to get his ultimate on Mercy to have an effect in that. But NZNR now on the Pharah. Aputo will stick to the Genji. That means there's no Tracer.
That means there's no Tracer, but they can still clean up with the Genji. This is obviously something they feel is going to work. I'm surprised they actually swapped to it this late, but hey, they had the flexibility to do this. Now they're committing to it. The Winston not going to be able to get him out of the skies here. Is that a nano boost on the Winston as well? It looks like it is. Kiyomi had committed that one. They've traded 1-for-1 now, but it's Rai who went down to that self-destruct. So Fireball with a bit of a DPS advantage for a moment, but again, they need to get more kills. There we go. Kiyomi, that's the one they need. They're starting to clean them up now as they find Restia as well. Kant out of the mech and now to the grave. DCR1 has committed an ultimate as well, but with no team to support him, this looks like it's going to be a cleanup for Fireball and a point cap to follow.
And Fireball looked like they were a little bit scared of respawns there because Aputo actually used Dragon Blade during that. And maybe they should be scared of the respawns.
Oh, they should be scared indeed. Machi had just finally managed to come out of the gate here. Nonez did get one, but he has gone back down. They've still got NZNR though, so they can get enough mileage out of him that I think they can keep this fight going. Again, they need to be quicker with how they secure these kills, but they've got the numbers advantage. Oh, that could be a deadly self-destruct. Oh, no! No way! He doesn't conk himself to safety. Not so simple geometry, but hold on. Ninth has found two in response, so maybe they can still keep it going. How tight is this skirmish going to be?
No way. A three-man kill with that self-destruct actually saved the point there for Machi. They're going to hold. And during that fight as well, Kurlos did manage to get his resurrect. So Fireball had such a numbers advantage during that, they weren't able to take it out. There's now seconds to go.
Rocket barrage. They've got Rocket on the point as well. The second part of the barrage really to try and get that overtime. They have secured it, but they haven't secured the kills as they lose two members. Aputo being one. No res either. Kurlos too far away anyway, and they do get held. That's a lot of distance, but if Machi can get the cap, they could well do it. There's stranger things that happen. That is not a secure position to Fireball.
And as much as it was a great hold by Machi near the end, a great position to hold the payload, preventing it from being capped because it's such a long run back by Fireball, the other thing is Fireball made very, very greedy plays. I said that they might have been scared of the respawns coming in, and that is what actually happened. But Apudo committing their ultimate because of that fear that they wouldn't be able to get the payload in, they needed to kill quicker to stop those respawns coming in. He didn't have his Dragon Blade for when they did actually come back in. That could have actually won them the fight because at that point it was even, they still had the Resurrect, and then they had no tools. They had nothing left. But I mean, when 3 members die to a self-destruct, that's really what saved the point there by Kant and his amazing ultimate.
Well, that's really clever as well because that whole area of Eichenwalde has no cover for a Pharah.
And where's the closest cover? The spawn point of Machi.
Exactly, and then the Mercy in the pocket. I mean, the Pharah has to get into cover, and then the Mercy has to use the shift ability to follow, and even they might not get into cover. It is a slow set of movements, so you can expect to kill those two pretty much guaranteed. Getting the third one is just icing on the cake, but that's really what secured the hold for Machi, through and through. But to kind of speak to Apudo's Dragon Blade, I do see what he was trying to go for, but it's one of those high risk, high reward things, right? If you commit it at the moment he did, for the reasons he did, you must secure kills. You must secure all the kills. It must be a wipe. You cannot let anyone be left alive on the point. You have to secure it right there and then. Otherwise, you should have held it, and that is what happened.
The most important thing during these matches is always to keep in mind what your win condition is right there.
Never give up win condition.
And 2 win conditions there were in the mind for not just Apudo, but his entire team, right? It was kill them quickly enough so that respawns aren't going to matter, or hold on to your ult and win the fight there. They chose the first option and didn't execute on it.
All right, well, now Machi's opportunity to attack Fireball, clean swept through this first choke point. Looks like Machi want to do the same. They're actually going to run a Pharah here. No sneaky tourbillons on defense. Apudo, though, on that Soldier 76 can contest Rai.
And look at this. This is what I was talking about. The line of sight that you can use as Pharah with the best positioning in the game on this hero. Honestly.
He's forced them back. Oh my goodness, they've picked Kurlos. That's a huge start, having forced Fireball back into that building on the retreat. They've kind of mucked up with the positioning of the defenders, and now they're looking to take advantage of it here. Rai trying to keep the pressure on as they get Rocket out as well. They need to be careful not to lose anyone here. Restia, oh, he is going to get picked off, but Fireball, I think they may have lost too many members. Unless Apudo and NZ and R pull out an absolute hero play here, I think there should be a cap for Machi.
The run back is way too long for Fireball. They're never going to make it back in time. They can buy time here, but wow, what a quick pick there. And honestly, Rai being able to position where he was, putting pressure on that small doorway, either forced Fireball off the high ground or into the room where DCR1 got to go absolutely bananas with that Tesla gun. You could see it just on the health bars itself, slowly ticking down. Apudo had nowhere to run.
So, similarly to when Fireball was on the offense, Machi got a very quick, very commanding cap. Not so similarly, they did not get trickle kills out of their opponent. They haven't got the same kind of space. They're also going to swap off this Pharah, it looks like. They're going to lose that rocket barrage. I do kind of agree with that, and they are going to actually have a res, so they should be okay, but they've got a lot more grounds to break compared to when Fireball were on the attack.
Yeah, I mean, you can see here though, Machi still buying time, pushing that payload slightly forward, but they're the ones to initiate the fight. Not necessarily agreeing with that. They can actually cause Fireball to jump onto the payload.
Yeah, they could have forced Fireball's hand. DCR1 goes down with an ultimate in pocket. If they lose Can here, then surely Kiyomi's going to have to commit a res. Yeah, they are. This is going to be a huge res when he commits it. He goes before Nones has actually died, so if he goes down, that's unfortunate for them. Apudo now with the Nanovisor running has already found that low health Nones, but he hasn't found anyone else. It all gets blocked up, and the Winston is right on top of it. He stays alive with the sound barrier though, and Fireball, they look like they've still got enough gas in the tank to keep this car a-driving. Trying to stop up the payload as Kiyomi gets picked. And only getting one with the self-destruct. Fireball can just retreat and give a little bit of space as well here, actually. Oh, and a great Graviton to secure it. That is a held fight for Fireball.
And that is going to clean everything up. Machi are going to now swap things up, throw Kiyomi onto the Ana. Definitely agree with this, just throwing out the res while they had it. Now, they've got a much better combination here. Kiyomi needs to work his way up to that nano boost. Nones, this means he's going to have to use Dragon Blade pretty early on, try and commit to something so that he can start building his ult up, so that the next time he has it, it'll be around where nano boost is available, and then they can combo those two on. So expect a very, very aggressive and early Dragon Blade here from Nonez.
Yeah, they really do need to use it, and they probably need to use it on a Puto as well, who's already sitting on another tactical visor, which he is now going to open out. He knows DCR1 is low on health, but he hasn't quite closed it out just yet. Oh, DCR1 makes the mistake of jumping into the air right in a Puto's sights as he now cleans up the rest of the team with those tanks out of the picture. Good payload distance on that one though, and they did draw out that one crucial ultimate from Fireball. So Machi, if they don't burn anything else here, can come back in with an ultimate on Ryan Nonez.
So this is actually quite a good position for Machi right now. The payload is in just enough of a position. If they win a fight cleanly enough, it'll push enough into the end of the checkpoint where they'll actually just flat out win the map. But it's also not too far away from this spawn point that they actually are not flooded by the defenders from Fireball.
Here they go. What can they find? They need to get some quick kills here because this is still good positioning for Fireball, and Fireball is starting to charge up a lot of ultimate. So Machi, they're trying to commit. Kurlos, caught on the low ground, is going to be their first pick, but they have lost rest yet. Nonez trying to open with the Dragon Blade, but he's low on health, and he's just going to have to retreat here. He's barely staying alive, but there we go. Finally getting closed out as Fireball, they're starting to find the kills here, even as they lose members. 9th out of the mech. This could actually be the moment to start securing it for Machi if they can get a few more, and Nonez respawn means he's not going to be able to get back into this fight in time, and Fireball will just hold by the skin of their teeth on this one.
Oh, they can't lose Rai here. He needs to get out alive, but I don't think he can. It's going to lose a lot of time for his team. They've only got 2 minutes. It's not a huge distance for the payload to go, but we saw Machi defend that well. Fireball can surely hold it at this corner, especially with the ultimates that they do have. They're coming up close to a Puto on his tactical visor. They can throw the nano boost on that, and that is all they need. But again, it's the same thing every single time.
Yomi connected a nano boost because all these members were low, and DCR1, he went in to try and secure them, and they've made it happen. They've just opened the path now, and they're going to march this one right in. DCR1 going to throw out the ultimate to stop anyone from contesting, and out of nowhere, Machi just found the kills that they needed, and they're going to even up the series.
Wow, I mean, just out of nowhere, throw the nano boost on the Winston, and he just destroys your team. Not to mention, you've also got your flankers, Rai on the Tracer, diving in pretty deep, getting a kill as well. They just got completely out-fragged there, throwing only one ultimate into that with the nano boost, and suddenly they had enough to actually take out a kill, take out a win even.
That's the opportunity you have, though. We've seen a little bit of that lately, and I really agree with it. Is nano boosting the Winston to secure a couple of kills? Because, I mean, Winston is integral to the dive comp. Yeah, here we go. Play of the game is actually that triple Diva self-destruct that we so lauded. But kind of going back to the Winstons, right? It's the core of your dive comp. And also, Fireball were talking about how that was something they wanted to leverage a lot because they felt they were good at it. What they had managed to do was got 3 members low who were retreating. Normally, that would mean Fireball can retreat successfully. There was still enough space that they could heal up, get back out, and then come in with an advantage. And all the DPS that had gone into getting them low would be negated. They'd be able to build up ult charge, and there would be plenty of space to still find the payload. A Winston can charge in. He can contest those 3 people trying to retreat. But when it's just the Winston and it's 3 people, even when they're low, he's outnumbered. With a nano boost, he does so much damage so fast, they cannot successfully retreat. So really quick split second decision making out of Machi there. And we talked about their tight macro, their knife's edge play is starting to eke back in, and they're starting to really contest this one.
Also, it's time to take a look at how DCR was playing during that round. They recognized, hey, okay, look, Aputo is on Soldier. He's been a pretty massive problem in a lot of our matches. A player that demands a lot of attention. And so not only did they have Kant with the defense matrix on that Diva flying into his face every so often, they also had DCR1 making Aputo a #1 priority. Quite often you saw him jumping right on top of him, dropping the barrier, especially when Machi were reading that Aputo would have tactical visor and Nanobus would be available too. Jumping on top of him, throwing a barrier, takes up half the time of his ultimate, and that happened quite often.
Yeah, and we said that Fireball had the strength of just having that stronger micro, but there were plenty of places there where Machi were out-fragging them. That's not something that they're kind of known for here. So they've obviously managed to find something there. I mean, they are also still skilled players. Let's not make a mistake there, right? Let's not give the wrong impression. So that is something they can do. But the fact that they were able to do it just so quickly and, you know, on the flip of a dime, I feel like these are two potentially some of the most evenly matched teams in the tournament right now, given that they're both shown fairly equal strengths in the micro play and the macro play. I would say Fireball slightly better on the micro, Machi slightly better on the macro, and in that game on Eichenwalde, the ult cycling, the momentum, the macro won out.
Yeah, and we could just see that in the results of the match we played so far. Control on Ilios was on Nepal, control as a genre is just something that favors players.
Map type.
Yeah, map
Map
type.
type.
Map genre is still a thing, okay? Now, that favors teams that have better mechanical skill, particularly on a lot of their DPS players, and that is like what you said, Fireball come out on top in that. Now coming into a hybrid map that demands a lot of macro play, that's where Machi came out on top, and in fact, a lot of it was kind of to kind of sound a little bit silly here, the macro play that I'm doing.
You're right, that did sound silly.
So, yeah, I know, right? So it's the decisions that aren't just like, when do we go in with what ults do we use? It's, who do we use to counter this guy? What do we do when to counter this guy? And that's exactly what we saw DCR1 being a big part of.
Exactly.
Just helping out Kance with that Diva play, countering out Apudo, who was a big problem. It's that type of play that will win that type of match.
And it's exactly what I was saying just a moment ago, that split-second decision-making in committing the Winston with the nano boost to secure that last fight for them. That's exactly what it is. It's how specifically do we deal with this exact situation in front of us, and Machi had that down to a T right there. And this is kind of the core of that knife's edge play we talk about. I know we're kind of using that as a buzzword here, but I feel like it is an apt description, and it's that split-second execution that makes it so strong. We've actually got what's going to be up next. There we go. Your hand was blocking it. Temple of Anubis is going to be up next. You guys can see it on your screens. I can only see it on that screen.
It's just there, look down there.
This is really cool. So let's actually kind of move forward from here. I feel like we've done a really good kind of dissemination of what we've got there. And for those of you just joining us, we're currently neck and neck between Fireball and Machi Esports. Fireball having beaten Sun Sister coming into this. So Machi, good job rallying after losing Nepal here. Now we're going to be on Assault, specifically Temple of Anubis. And the thing I kind of feel about Assault in general is it can favor either team depending on whether you're better at macro or micro, because the teams with great macro can out-ult cycle and give themselves an almost insurmountable attacker's advantage when they need to break the second point. The teams with good micro can just open the way with good frags.
So the way it's going to work is going to be pretty important of the first attack by each team, right? And when we're talking about microplay and the mechanical skill from the players, that's where the first advantage is going to be, because there's no ultimates coming into play unless maybe it goes a little bit long and a Tracer gets a pulse bomb. That's really going to be the only macro decisions you're going to see in that stage of the game. So a team that comes out on top of that well enough with enough ultimates to snowball onto the second point, using their mechanical skill to snowball the fight so hard, they can then use what is pretty simply a very easy macro decision, which is let's go to the second point because we have more ultimates. So I think that is where Fireball, as the better micro team, should be looking to excel.
Now, Temple of Anubis specifically, I do just want to mention this. If we look at Machi, traditionally they have struggled on Assault. They've actually struggled a whole lot on Assault.
Well, they picked this map, I think.
Yeah, they did, because they do have the home advantage, but they have to pick Assault, right? And I believe they've struggled a little more on Hanamura, but they also played a very hard team on Hanamura, so it's really hard to call it, right? So if we look at just the match record, I am going to say I feel like Machi might have a hard time here, but they also just pulled out a win on what was Fireball's map pick, what was a map we don't see a whole lot of, so they can come into this with a good amount of confidence. And like I said, a bit of a return to form in terms of how tight they were playing, how good their decision-making was. Maybe this is the time where they start cracking those Assault maps too.
So Machi coming into this one, right, again, it's being their pick. They've got to recognize what Fireball are going to pull out on their first attack. We're going to find out who's actually attacking first. It is Fireball. So Machi needs to recognize, what is Fireball very likely to play on attack? Dive compositions. What do we have to shut that down? They're looking at a dive comp of their own. I'm not sure if this is the answer, because it's pretty much mirrored by Fireball, and as we've seen, they simply are able to play these exact heroes just that little bit better. I would have liked to see a bit more of a Deathball comp, maybe one thing in there to shut down some dives.
Yeah, and already Fireball are looking to just get right in, scatter Machi, put them in disarray. Let's see how they can manage it. Oh, they got Kiyomi. That's all you need to break these kinds of holds. But if they can get a quick trade back here, Machi may be able to hold it still. They get Kant out of the mech though, and Nonez, he's really on the ropes here. Apudo, he's just kind of able to dash between these two legends to stay safe, and Nonez is unfortunately on the retreat. Yeah,
he's killing everyone.
No, Nonez is the one who's dying. Apudo, he's staying safe and then killing everyone, which is just incredible. You know, it's the best of both worlds. But at any rate, Fireball, lots of frags, looking to get the cap as well. Now, this is exactly what I was talking about, getting those few kills to open the path.
Biggest thing to note here is that Apudo is 90% of the way towards his ult. I don't think they're going to defend here. They're just simply buying a bit of time. This cap is definitely going over to Fireball. Now, how do they take it into this next stage? Actually, they're getting 1 kill, 2 kills here.
Yeah, they got 2 kills, but they do lose Nonez, and I don't know if I agree with this trickle in. DCR1 has got a lot of health, but there's a lot of damage to deal with it. Actually, oh yeah, no, the self-destruct is going to zone off Machi for that last second, I think. No, he dives in at the last second. He used the barrier to buy him the seconds on the point, but if he dies, it doesn't matter. And they're just feeding ult charge now. Apudo is going to have an ultimate. This is how snowballs begin. Look at how much time they could potentially end this with.
I was talking about it before, like, oh, Apudo is almost at his ultimate. Now they've got half their team on their ultimates. NZNR can probably get one during this fight. Sound barrier with a nano boost the Dragon Blade. This is the moment for Fireball to come in and clean up the fight. Machi have swapped onto Sombra. Yeah, that's not the answer.
He's going in for it here. He's already found Kiyomi. He has a nano boost on him as well, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, he does. Right to throw out the pulse bomb, but there's going to be the ultimate from Rocket to keep himself nice and healthy. They haven't got the extra kills though. They had to close them out right here, right now. Apudo finds that health pack hacked, so he's not going to be able to take this 1v1 against Nonez. He goes down. Kurlos dropping as well. NZNR to follow him to the grave, and Machi, they do just barely hold. So that was a very dicey situation.
I want to talk about why I said Sombra wasn't the answer there, and that was because simply they needed just enough brute force to stop the snowball coming out. Sound barrier apparently was enough for Machi to hold there. Now Sombra is a great choice because you can hack that health pack down there. The double flanking comp coming from Fireball means that they're cut off from not just that health pack, but every health pack around. And EMP charges incredibly quickly and shuts down both Tracer and Genji.
I was going to say that as well. I mean, Sombra is something you pick on, and I've started to like Sombra on this defense a lot. Sombra is a pick you take when you're looking to hunker down and take a long hold. It's not something you pick when you need to stop a snowball, but in any case, they did stop it. So now the Sombra is going to start doing work already in the flank, hacking all the crucial health packs, but going down to NZNR. Well, there's still those health packs up for Fireball and down therefore for Machi.
I don't think the health pack was hacked down there.
They're losing members. No, it actually has been, but that may just run out before long, but they're losing the members. That's the crucial thing. They've got so many ultimates though, and with those respawns, they can come in and just throw those ultimates onto the point. Apudo
went down.
Goes down. Yeah, he was one of the only ultimates they actually had. They open it with the EMP and throw out a self-destruct as well. They actually do get one with that and clean up Rocket as well. There should be, again, a hold.
And the thing about EMP is on defense, you can literally just throw it out whenever you can because Sombra's ult charges so ridiculously quickly with those health packs. You can just throw it out to shut down these fights, shut down any fight at all that Fireball is coming in with. Apudo might have his ultimate, just ultimate he can't get out and we'll kill him before he even uses it. Apudo has used his ultimate, EMP, it hits him, and we shut him down anyway. So Sombra is, I love the pick on the defense here. The problem is if she gets picked off right at the start before she can even use the EMP, then Nonez is going to have zero effect on this fight. And quite often, we're actually seeing NZNR finding Nonez.
And now it's Fireball with the ultimate advantage because Machi had thrown so many. And yes, again, Nonez getting picked. Rai, he's in a bit of a troublesome situation, uses the recall to stay alive back onto their health pack as well. Apudo going to open up with the Dragon Blade as Rai throws out a pulse bomb. A nice sound barrier to try and stop up the Dragon Blade, but Apudo finds one in spite of it. It might not be enough though, as he's lost a few too many teammates and is now hacked. He doesn't really have much safety, and that's not a skirmish you can win against Nonez, who was picked so early he came in with a respawn. And this is again Fireball on the retreat. Machi doing a great job of holding tight and burning down the clock.
Fireball seem to just be throwing their bodies at the point, and then occasionally some of the DPS players will ult, trying to find some of the magical kills. The only real synergy we're seeing is nano boost being thrown onto Apudo. That's pretty much it. Fireball, they've got to recognize, and I think they have with the Zarya swap, that they need to get a full team wipe to really get the kill here, get the points here. And it's going to take some time. They've got that though. 3 minutes to go. All they need to work on is getting that Graviton surge up and getting a nice, clean 6-man kill.
Sleepy Nonez, and he's like, guys, he's over here. So they're going to commit. The Winston tries to come in to be a savior, and Nonez just recalls back. And the Winston able to get out as well. So Fireball kind of give up a moment of positioning. Should be fine though.
Unfortunately though, like, it was really just Nonez being caught out, so they didn't gain anything too much from that.
And they
bought
don't
a little bit of
lose
time.
anything either.
They bought maybe 10 seconds of time actually on the point, which, you know, could be the thing that wins the game for them.
Yeah, I mean, 10 seconds can be the difference between winning and losing, to be sure. I mean, we can't say for sure now. So really, for now, it's ineffectual. What is effectual is rest. You're getting picked, though. And now Sound Barrier on Fireball to kind of keep it up. Hold on a second. Machi stepped off the point. Fireball were on it. Now all they need is a few kills. The respawn advantage might not be enough as they get Kiyomi as well, but Apudo stuck onto the side with the gorilla in his face. space, but it doesn't matter because the self-destruct secured it, and Fireball sneak it out from under the nose of Machi.
Where did Machi go? There's no reason for them to stand off the point there. They capped it so quickly. It was actually kind of ridiculous that Fireball managed to do that. They were walking in, and I would have thought that they were just looking for some fights where maybe they can trade ults a lot more in their favor and then come back in for the team kill. They just go in for the picks, and it's, again, back to that mechanical skill. Getting those kills at the start of the fight just allows them to walk into the point, and Machi apparently were too scared to walk back onto it.
I mean, excuse the pun, but they kind of dropped the ball there. They walked off, you're completely right, and by the time they kind of realized what was going on, they were 5 versus 6 because they'd lost Restia, and the point was so far capped that they couldn't rely on defender's advantage anymore, because if they were suddenly in a 3 versus 6, you know, the moment you're off that point for a split second, you lose all opportunity to contest. So you need to constantly have someone on, and then eventually that's just going to weigh you down. You'll have to give up your win condition. You'll have, you know, Traces and Divas and Maze all over the place, and it's just not going to work out for you. So I think that was about 2 minutes, maybe 2.5 in the bank for Fireball. Nothing to be trifled with. But I will say, for how commanding their grab on the first point was, Machi then rallied very, very strongly and held a long way on the second point. Now we get to that question I was asking before. Have Machi fixed their problems when attacking on Assault? Can they break Fireball?
Well, they look incredibly focused right now, and you've got to be sitting down and saying, like, something went incredibly wrong in that defense there at the last second. We did very well for most of it. Let's not beat around the bush about that, but they've got to be focused on this one because they have got a big ask in front of them, and it's like you said, can they cap 2 points off of Fireball? Now, Fireball, they like to run a lot of dive on their defense as well, so I feel like we're going to see basically a mirror of the first round, and that's going to be correct. Big difference is Machi are running Kiyomi on the Zenyatta this time. We've got to make sure they remember all the way back to Nepal, he was dying at the start of a lot of fights until they started putting Kant on bodyguard duty on top of them. Hopefully, for their sake, it happens for him again.
Yeah, already fast on the anti-flank here is NZNR and Apudo. They're not going to let Nonez get the same onto them as what they just did to Machi. Kurlos very safe to keep the team topped off. Kiyomi,
no one can protect
that is
him.
the same thing. And they were trying to get set up as they did it. That is the power that NZNR holds in this one. But they did get a trade back onto Apudo. They are lacking in a healer. But if they get just enough kills, they could still try and keep this one alive. Raya's kind of low, so they need to play this one carefully. But they're committing anyway. Kiyomi will respawn, and he's got quite a short walk in. But they lose DCR1. I don't know if they should really keep this fight going. And with Kant out of the mech, yeah, they really should just back off here. Kiyomi should not commit to this.
With the trades that they do get, their respawn is a lot closer, and every single kill counts right here. They've actually managed to get 3 over this entire thing. In fact, I think Apudo will be only just arriving back now, so it is actually still almost an even fight. They are going to regroup around the choke point once more, but there are still a few members of Fireball still running back, and they'll get there a little bit late to this next fight, but only if Machi rush. Nonez close to his Dragon Lane, closer in fact than Apudo because of that death early on. If they can get to that, then that might be enough for them to take the point.
I think it'll count for a lot. You're dead right there. Oh, and that's a pulse bomb going wide. Right. Oh, no, that's a lie. He didn't go wide at all. NZNR's one went wide, is what I was saying, is right through his own one out. That's going to be the self-destruct on the point by seconds, but it's not enough seconds. And this is Machi all over it. Opened up by the pulse bomb, and now the path is clear. I don't know if they can get a snowball off this one because of how the ultimates have kind of panned out, but they will have a transcendence.
And the big reason that they're not going to get a snowball off this is because they don't have a nano boost. They don't have something to throw into Nonez to basically guarantee 2-hit kills, even through some defensive plays like the bionic grenade coming up to heal people. So Nonez, he's also going to be a little bit easier to kill. Kiyomi has to get to that transcendence and get right into the middle of the point.
Maybe they can do it though. Let's get on to this one. Machi, they've got to commit. Kiyomi is low, but he's able to stay alive. Now with that transcendence, they can commit now if they want to. DCR1 will get his ultimate during the fight. They go in with the sound barrier to start, and Fireball answers with one of their own. Oh no, Nonez goes down to his counterpart in Apudo. They do get one trade back off, but they've lost Rai, and I don't think they have enough in this one because the transcendence could not save the team. DCR1, he shouldn't commit his ultimate here if he's smart, unless they get a bunch of crazy kills. Hold on a second.
They got
Apudo. They might want to commit to this one. Kiyomi is actually still alive. They've got an ulting rocket in their faces, but he's only finding DCR1 who can just ult himself as well, but the defender's advantage will start to come in. They kind of want to commit to this. They've decided and they need to fully commit now. They keep it open. They keep it up as they commit a pulse bomb.
Reinforcements
as well.
are here.
Reinforcements are indeed here, sorry, for both sides. As right finds Kurlos. They're keeping it broken. But Apudo, I didn't even notice he was onto the Roadhog, but opening up with a hook like that is exactly what he needs. Does get dropped down. It's still so back and forth. Surely the defender's advantage will start to favor Fireball here, though. That's how these protracted fights tend to go on point B. But Machi, they still have something left in the tank here. I think they finally want to back off, though.
Oh, they threw absolutely everything they had at that point, and they still didn't even manage to get the very first tick. Yes, they fought very valiantly, but that just made the fight even longer, and now Fireball are happy to waste several minutes of Machi's time. But because of the length of that fight as well, Machi still have a few ults now after all of that. Nonez, Dragon Blade is ready. Kiyomi's back up to Transcendence once more. Now, this might be enough for them to get in there, but Nonez can't die at the start of this fight after pulling out a sword.
Well, they're going to open it up with the sound barrier. He's going to pull out the sword, and he's already fighting Kurlos. That Discord Orb might be enough to get Apudo. It is as he misses the hook. Nonez, he needs to secure even more, but he looks on track to do that as Knight throws out the self-destruct, but he doesn't find much with it. He does get back in the mech, though, but Machi, with all these members alive, the Transcendence doing much better this time around for it, and now they're going to get Knight. There's the secure that they need. They need a good few more, though, because they haven't actually got any time on the point. They haven't really got the large number of kills as they lose Kiyomi and DCR1. Those two kills are going to spell disaster for Machi as Fireball, again, the defender's advantage. We say it all the time. It starts to eke out the victory.
It's just those few kills that you can get early on in that fight that means that there's only 5 people running around your point while everyone is flooding back onto it. Now Machi, they've spent a few attacks on this, haven't got a clean kill yet. When are they going to realize that maybe Transcendence is not the answer? Getting these picks are what you need to do at the start of the fight. If you're going to run a Zenyatta, you need that Discord Orb to allow either Nonez or Rai to get a pick at the start of the fight and go in with a numbers advantage from there. That is what Zenyatta brings to a team, but they're not managing to bring it.
And let's see what they can do with what resources they do have. They could try and just play the macro game. Oh, hold on, they pick NZ and out. They do lose their own Tracer, though. They need to get Apudo out of this nice and quick. They don't have a nano boost to try and break this triple tank, and they lose Kiyomi. I think they should just back up, but they've committed ultimates. Maybe they're already in too deep, and maybe they just need to draw them out of Fireball, and they're going to try it, but the respawns are going to come in as usual for Fireball. Nonez, he's holding on to the Dragon Blade still, and he doesn't really have any health in the pocket, but oh, that was a big one for Kant there, finding ninth. They picked Rocket as well. They want to go for it, and Nonez is still holding on to a Dragon Blade. Apudo, he's not found anything with the whole hog, and now he's going to go down. He doesn't secure it for his team. Fireball are starting to get wiped as they open up with the Dragon Blade. They're getting a little bit of time on the point here, Machi, and they should get a Transcendence. Oh no, good secure by ninth. That might just be enough to stop this one up. Yeah, with Rocket ulting as well, they've got the health to do it all. And yeah, with the self-destruct to secure it, that's going to force Machi back one more time. They still have 2 minutes left, but that was an all-in fight that failed.
This is still definitely enough for them to come back in. Enough time, but look at the time bank, right? Fireball already have a bigger time bank, so Machi are immediately going to be on the back foot, even if they cap it from here. They need to go in with several more fights, especially after losing the mech right there. This pick at the start of the fight is not going to be enough. They need to go back, to go into one more fight, try and force ultimates out of Fireball without using any of their own. If they can go back into a fight with 6, maybe even 5 ultimates just to get a nice full team wipe onto Fireball and keep them out of the point and not lose a single member in the respawns coming out from Fireball, that is what's going to win them the fight.
Here they go one more time. They need to draw out ultimates from Fireball, or at the very least get picks. Oh, Kiyomi! How many times will it happen? They should retreat right now. They cannot afford to waste any more ults. Maybe they could draw something out of Fireball, but they absolutely shouldn't. They lose Restia as well. They cannot afford to lose Nonez. Oh, no. Dearie me. They have time for one fight. One fight only.
1 minute is enough time for Nonez to go ahead, get respawned, and come back in. And to their credit, they didn't use any ults during that fight. Maybe actually used the self-destruct, didn't see it. But at the same time, Nonez, with this 45 seconds left to go, needs to throw a few shurikens in, get that Dragon Blade ready to go, because I've got to say, looking at it on paper, Machi have the better team when they go in with all ultimates compared to Fireball. Whole Hog just doesn't bring the same thing. And here they go.
Alphex, he's down. They're committing with that Transcendence. They need to get that team wiped. That's the crucial one. He opens up the Dragon Blade, but Apudo just knocks him mid-swing there, and they're starting to swing back in entirety. Apudo with an ultimate still available, and there'll be no Transcendence to counter it up. Good hook onto DCR1. Not quite the ideal target. They haven't been able to
kill
hook
here and
Caputo.
there.
Yeah, one kill here and there indeed. The defender's advantage will start to outweigh anything Machi can throw at this one. And they will throw everything at the kitchen sink if they can, but they don't have members on the point. And no one's going to touch it. No one's going to buy them overtime. Oh wait, Nunez on the Reaper at the last second to get a few moments of overtime. But he will die, and there will be no one else to secure it for the team. And Fireball will take Temple of Anubis. Machi can still not crack point 2 of Assault.
So very, very, very fun fact, maybe not for the teams, but in this series, no one has won on their pick of map. Machi picked Temple of Anubis and weren't able to win
Machi
there.
picked first.
Yeah.
So if we do go to a game 5, that doesn't bode well for them. At any rate, for those of you who have just tuned in, this is the 3rd play of the game in a row from Aputo, and his team Fireball now 2-1 up against Machi in what is becoming an incredibly tight series. I mean, even in that one when they weren't able to secure it, there's 2 things to be said about that. One is they came very close. They weren't quite able to get the team wiped. That was the only difference. But their play was very, very solid there. It was almost good enough to break Assault. And the only reason I feel they lost when they were on defense was they were caught napping a little bit. Fireball did kind of sneak onto the point out from behind them. It is not a mistake Machi should have made. And let's be clear, they did make that mistake. It did cost them the game, and that's not good enough. But this is a tight-looking Machi, this is a tight-looking series, and these are 2 very close-looking teams.
I've got to say though as well, credit to Aputo as well for really stepping it up, not just this series, but today as a whole. Really putting on the show that his fans have been waiting for, and here it is. He's just been going off, like you said, 3 plays of the game in a row, and it all comes down to what we were saying were the strengths between the 2 teams. We thought Machi maybe a little bit better on the macro there, but I've got to say, Fireball, not just on the mechanical skills there, outclassing them, but also at some of their macro decisions too. Machi just seemed to be throwing bodies at the point near the end.
There absolutely was what happened. And there are a couple of times they committed for fights that maybe they shouldn't have. To their credit, when they committed to those fights, they nearly pulled it out. So you almost wonder if they committed to slightly more favorable fights and slightly more favorable situations, they actually could have closed it out. And maybe that's something they just need to go away and kind of reassess. But let's also give credit where credit's due, and it was credit you kind of gave just there. We said something Fireball needed to do in previous days was unlock their star players, notably Aputo, but we have also now pointed out the strengths of players like NZ and R. They have unlocked those things now. They've found a series of things that worked, and they've even been able to change it up. Like, they haven't only played the Winston, we have also seen, I believe, Rocket on Zarya, so they've got a bit of flexibility.
Yeah.
They've got that solid core of the dive comp, and now they're starting to deviate from that, and it's still working.
Yeah, I mean, one big weakness is that, especially during the interview that we saw earlier today, was that Zalfix was talking about how they did struggle a little bit on Reinhardt compositions, and they didn't have a very strong Reinhardt player. It's why we see who is actually listed as their support player, Rocket, is playing the tanks, playing Winston, and it is working out for them.
The thing, they were saying they went, all right, well, this kind of worked for us. This is what let us unlock NZ and Raputo, so let's just keep rolling with it. But you're right about that Reinhardt, and I mean, you wonder if Machi can watch those interviews.
Exactly,
because,
right. If they can.
Yeah, pick maps that require Reinhardt. Maybe that's what they were looking for with Eichenwalde. I mean, there's also a bit of a lore thing going on there, but it didn't work out. They just found a different way to go about it with that kind of dive comp.
Exactly.
Actually, that's a lie. Machi won that.
Yeah, Machi did win.
Fireball picked it. I don't even know what's going on.
What's going on in this series? Who knows?
What's going on is they're not picking maps where Reinhardt is required, and it's hard to say what maps do have a Reinhardt requirement, but also this next map is going to be Fireball's pick, and it's going to be Escort. So we're between Dorado, Route 66, and Watchpoint Gibraltar, and I feel like those are all things that can very much favor dive comps.
Exactly, and I think teams do like to run a little bit of the good old Reinhardt on Dorado specifically.
Yeah.
Occasionally on Route 66
But it's Fireball's pick. They can just avoid it.
Exactly, right. Fireball, they'll be looking to pick maybe even Gibraltar, I've got to say. We haven't seen it at all so far during the Pacific Championship, but Gibraltar is a map that you can run a lot of dive on because particularly on the first checkpoint, but also during the second one with the plane and the hangar, a lot of dive because there's a lot of high positions that you can get all around. A lot of players like to entrench themselves up in that high ground, but if you're just running dive comp, you've got your Aputo and NZNR combo on the Genji and Tracer jumping all over the place, then suddenly those entrenched positions aren't going to matter as much. I think Gibraltar is something that could play into the strengths of what Fireball do like to play. That said, I still think they can run their composition on maps like Dorado and Route 66. There's similar things, especially just talking about specific checkpoints as well. First checkpoint on Route 66.
The dive, absolutely.
Exactly.
I mean, that's how you break a Big L's defense, naturally.
Yes.
I feel like that's slightly less true for Dorado, though, just with the nature of that choke point. You kind of have to go around the side. You have to get a very interesting kind of fight in the courtyard. I do almost expect Gibraltar here. And the other thing I kind of think speaks to the strength of that is, you kind of touched on it, Aputo is a wizard at getting people off those high ground positions. We saw that just now on Temple of Anubis, right? When they were on offense, Aputo had Nonez on the ropes. Nonez was dashing between sides, trying to not die. Aputo was dashing away to get safe and then dashing back in to get kills. And that's what you want to be doing as the Genji. That's what the defending Genji should be doing. But it was Aputo on offense. He can absolutely do that on the hangar stage of Gibraltar. I mean, the more I say it, the more I think about it, the more this has surely got to be Fireball's pick. Anything else is going to surprise me at this point.
I'd like to see some teams start considering running some anti-dive. We actually saw it near the end of Temple of Anubis, coming up for Fireball with the Roadhog. Hey, look, it's Route 66.
Route 66, there we go. Well, the dive to break Big L's, you did actually mention it. So.
Exactly, but as I was saying, teams should start looking to run some kind of anti-dive, and that's going to include things like your McCree, your Roadhog to hook anyone that's diving in, especially Roadhog because that can shut down Winston's. If you're Machi, then throw a Roadhog in. Suddenly, Rocket, who's been playing Winston 90% of the time,
he doesn't have that option.
Going to get hooked. You just wait for that shield to either expire or you break it down with Roadhog's shotgun, and then you hook the Winston. You hook him back in, and it's basically half of his health bar gone. The rest of your team can do the rest, and suddenly, so much of the dive is shut down for Fireball. Roadhog is a great option.
It absolutely is, but I don't know if we've actually seen a Roadhog out of Machi yet. And
no,
you start to question,
today.
You start to question whether or not they can play it. And to kind of counteract that, Machi themselves on offense have also favored dive, and we know Aputo can play Roadhog. Not only do we know it, we just saw it on Temple of Anubis, and he plays it so well. I mean, in the brief time we saw it, it helped secure the match for them, just with the hooks he was landing, the positioning he had, the way he used his ultimates. He's just a fantastic Roadhog player.
Aputo, like, I just want to talk about his Roadhog a little bit that we saw during the summer series. It was actually a very unique way of what I've seen players play Roadhog. It was almost, I'm going to relate it to how you see very good Bastion players in solo queue, right? He's always in a different position.
No,
not necessarily,
completely
not necessarily
right,
with his team, right? For example, on Gibraltar during Hangar Phase, this game stands out to me so much. He was always on the high ground, sometimes on the left side, sometimes on the right side. You never knew where he was going to be. You come out of one of the choke points.
And contesting the Genjis that dive up there.
Exactly.
Oh, how is it exciting. But we also saw that a little bit on Temple of Anubis. You can't do it as much, but he was sitting around the side on the interior, peeking, looking for a good hook if he could find one. He was happy to take the hook onto the Winston as well, because Machi were the ones on the back foot, and he knew that. So the Winston not being able to support whoever else was diving means he had done whatever work he needed to do in that fight. He had served his purpose. And he's a Roadhog. The Winston wasn't going to turn around and try and win that 1v1. Right. So the Winston retreats, he's lost a bit of health, and then Aputo can just go back to peeking, looking for the next hook. It's not like he puts himself at risk by going for these hooks.
So the one problem that I'm seeing with bringing out the Aputo on Roadhog is that they can only really do it on defense for Route 66. Because if they want to run Roadhog on attack, you're generally running a deathball composition. They are not comfortable running Reinhardt. You're not going to run something like a Winston and a Roadhog. Those just are not tanks that will do the job. So this time, I expect them to run the same composition on attack, but maybe look out for a Roadhog on defense. If they could fit it into an attack composition with a Reinhardt, then absolutely I think that would be the choice. But right now, Fireball need to play to their strengths. Maybe think about this in the later weeks for your attacks on Route 66, but today, they definitely need to stick with the same composition that they are just outclassing Machi with.
Yeah, I mean, we were saying it the whole first series, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I mean, that's a philosophy that Fireball seemed to kind of take to heart. So, yeah, I expect dive. A question I'm going to ask, though, do you think we can also expect a bit of Farah here?
Probably coming out of Machi with Rai, probably on the attack. And the reason for that is just to break up what is potentially going to be some anti-dive on top of Big Earls, so that you can throw out the concussive blast. You know Fireball do not often run a Reinhardt, which means there's not going to be a gigantic barrier in the way of your concussive blast. You can knock everyone off the top of Big Earls. Now, half the team are probably mobile enough to get right back up on there, but someone like Roadhog's not going to be. Soldier, if Apudo is running that, or McCree, they're all going to have to run back up and completely be out of position. So Pharah is definitely an option. Whether it's run with Mercy is going to be the big question.
For sure, yeah. And I feel like on the offense, that Mercy is a big help for them as well. I mean, the tempo res you can get. And Machi have shown good strength on the tempo reses. Unfortunately, half the time they get a tempo res, half the time the team gets wiped and the Mercy rushes back and then they res and the other team still has ultimate. So we're seeing a bit of 50-50 play out of Machi, but on Escort, that can actually be good enough, you know? Like, I mean, all you need is enough tempo to cap the next point, and then you can often just reassess from there. It's not like Control in that regard. So, you know, if they do run a Pharah, I would expect to see a Mercy, but that requires them running a Pharah. So we're just gonna have to wait and see.
If Kiyomi does run Mercy, really needs to sort out that issue of dying at the start of every fight, because once it comes to ultimate time,
Yeah,
that's the worst thing to happen if you're a Mercy.
that's become a big glaring weakness of Machi. It also speaks to the strength of Fireball. We talked about this with Machi, their target selection and how tight it is starting to get, but Fireball having the target selection to always go hunter-killer on Kiyomi is part of what is causing them to be so successful. You take the healer out of the fight, you win. It's like the first play in the playbook. I mean, that was how you would win fights back in the very first healer-based meta, which was both teams just running Mercy and both teams just going for big reses. If you picked the other team's Mercy, it didn't matter. You could just win it. You didn't even need a res.
It's kind of a staple of any game, to be honest.
But this game, here we go.
Here we go, indeed. And no surprises from the Fireball side. No Reinhardt coming out, so they are just sticking to the good old true Apudo and NZR on the diving composition.
Yep.
They're getting in early.
Yeah, they're really committing to it early. Machi actually quite deep on this one. I mean, Fireball, I suppose they're technically deeper, but both teams just seem really kind of scattered and split up, and it's actually Machi who are going down, so it's really kind of paying off for Fireball.
You lose every single advantage on defense when you dive in like that. Now, I'm not surprised that Machi are running a dive composition, but you generally just have to wait until the payload is around about at this position, because then if things go a little bit hairy, you have the option to use your mobility to jump back up onto big Oz where you are safe, you can get healed once more, but instead, they just go onto even grounds with Fireball, and Fireball, we've seen them once more just completely outclass them on a mechanical level.
Yeah, well, they do have just enough time to get back to the top of Big L's, but they are going to have to force the Diva off first. They are able to do that, but now they still have to muster a solid defense, and breaking Big L's is exactly what Fireball's comp is built to do. Here goes DCR1 trying to commit, and they've actually kind of surrounded these healers, but here comes the cavalry to save them, and it doesn't look like they secure any kills here. They do just barely pick off Kurlos, who is just shy of a nano boost, but there's still so many kills coming through in favor of Fireball. I feel like this is just a bit of a scattered and harebrained defense.
I think I see why Fireball picked this map. Their dive composition is just completely outclassing what Machi can bring, so why not match them on it? Why not bring it on?
And Machi aren't responding to it well either.
They're not swapping either. They are still sticking to this composition, which they know that Fireball are outclassing them on. And just take a look at the top of the scoreboard. 5 ultimates ready for Fireball. They did all of that without spending a single lot, except for perhaps a Pulse Bomb, which is basically a throwaway one anyway. Apudo can just go in with the Nano Blade combo in this next fight, and if they can get it past this bridge, then that's basically the second checkpoint gone for Machi.
Yeah, they've still got so many ultimates, but Kurlos getting picked. He did just barely get the nano boost off before that, but Rai low onto the side here, going to recall to get his health back off. They have killed anyone else just yet. Actually, that's a lie. They get Zelfs, but I don't know if that's really enough. They're going to try to self-destruct to secure this one. They have actually stopped up Fireball for a moment here, and Fireball did commit a startling number of ultimates to this one. They may just want to commit more. They may just want to go all in because they're close enough to securing a few more kills that they might as well. They've got Restia. They're looking to get Nonez. Yeah, they are just going to go ahead and commit because the respawns are coming in. They did lose Apudo, but
the respawns were super close, so they could easily get in. Now, interesting decision by Fireball.
Yeah.
They used the Nano Monkey combo, and it got a lot of consistent damage, but Apudo, what that meant is that he can now save his ultimate and use it in the second stage of this checkpoint here. He's going to be able to get back up onto that bridge and just cut them off at the choke point. They're all going to be coming out of there. They don't have a Graviton Surge or anything, but I don't think they need one. Apudo is going to go in and just slice them to pieces.
well, bit of a breather now. Machi, I think they're just looking to muster a defense here. It's going to be a little bit tricky for them. Ah, there we go. Losing Zalx. They're actually going to go ahead and open up with the Dragon Blade as well. Out of Nonez, let's see what they can find with that, because Aputo's still holding on to his. So Nonez not really finding much, and Aputo already finding more by getting Rai. Now able to take out his counterpart Genji, and they just kind of keep it going. It was a classic case of Machi not finding enough and Fireball finding more. A few more kills, and they will be able to get a calf here.
It's still kind of even-ish. There's a few more members for Fireball, but Machi do have a closer respawn. It's basically the flip story here. But Fireball, they're still not moving the payload, but one by one, people are coming in and dying on Machi. They're not picking up those one kills at a time. They just need to get one here and there. They've actually managed to just get a few members here, but they're not picking up any kills, and they need to get one at a time so that they can slowly but surely use their respawn advantage to take control of the situation. But instead, because of that, like you said, they just ended up feeding over ult charge.
They're giving ult charge, and now they're in a position where they can't take an early fight so that they can afford to take a second one. That being said, it's not like there are a lot of ultimates in the pocket of Fireball. So they've got a lot of ult charge compared to what they would have otherwise had, but it's still not complete ultimates. Machi do have a pulse bomb in the pocket and enough time to get some ults up on the rest of their team.
Cans with a little bit too late. Switch here onto the Roadhog and not even able to hit the hook. This is the anti-dive I would have wanted to see from point one, but that's a good pulse bomb at the start.
Yeah, Rocket going down to that pulse bomb. That was also Rocket who just swapped over, so he's not going to spend that fight gaining ult charge. So actually, Machi have managed to get themselves into a situation just with who they were able to kill, whereupon they've stopped any potential for Fireball to snowball. Not that Fireball had a ton of potential, mind you, but great target selection as per usual out of Rai.
DCR1 throwing out the Primal Rage near there. A little bit interesting, so Machi now don't have a huge amount to work with. They can actually throw an Anubis. Hey, look, DCR1, he swapped onto the Reinhardt, probably why that happened. Moving on to more of a brawl composition. It's going to be a little bit weak to what Tracer and Genji can pull out in this fight. They've both got their ultimates. There's the Nano Boost, he's going in.
They're really going hard on this one, but Nonez is doing equal amounts of work, and it's Nonez now starting to do a little bit more work, earning his keep as Aputo is going to go down too, and that's going to account for a Machi defense.
They still got a little bit of distance during that. It was even trades on the ultimates, basically just both Nanoblade combos, but Machi did not stop the payload during that assault. Fireball just got free distance for it, and that could be the difference between winning and losing here. They still hold on to a few ultimates though, but Ali's going to be effective? No, I don't think so. Fireball are going to need to go for a few more fights until they have enough to start cleaning up as we get closer to this checkpoint. Oh boy.
Yeah. Ninth isn't really the one you want to hook, but this is where that macro player is going to start to really count. Kant actually opening up with an ultimate. A Fireball, that's exactly what we're talking about. They're just going to absorb that one completely. Now they want to go back in for the offensive. They need to get a few key picks just to open it out, give themselves the space, and end it in R. Oh, he didn't quite get the pulse bomb in time, as I was about to talk about, but that's going to cue a retreat for Fireball and Machi. They're going to buy enough time to rebuild some ult charge, and Fireball are going to have to start from square one.
Fireball, though, used basically no ults during that. They're pretty happy with that. I mean, when you're marching up to the end of the third checkpoint, you need to fully wipe the enemy team to actually capture it. They're fine with forcing a few ults out from the enemy, that whole hog, that pulse bomb, and then they can go in with all of their ultimates. They've even swapped Rocket onto the Zarya a little while ago. If he gets Graviton Surge, that's the best tool for wiping an entire team, especially a team that's running something like Reinhardt and Roadhog, who will usually be standing quite close together.
And like I said, Machi, now, they have had the chance to build up a little bit more ult charge. Fireball do still have a little bit more, but Machi, they have the respawn advantage, so it's going to have to be a lot of kills as they commit the Nanoblade combo. That's a good set of Zarya bubbles, though, and the sound barrier as well, but they get Kurlos despite that, who nearly had a Nano Boost too. Notice he doesn't find much more, and that's a Graviton out of Rocket, but he's soon to die, and the rest of his team gets wiped as they committed Dragon Blade from Aputo too. They committed all their ults and didn't get enough for it. Aputo got a couple of good kills there. Maybe NZNR can come in and pull something crazy, but they don't even have a ton of distance on this payload. It's still got a good way to go. Yeah, I mean, they close out a few more, but look, Machi have the respawns now. This is that defender's advantage, and Fireball are going to go into this last stretch without any ults and without enough time to lose a fight.
Oh, that was good reaction by
Ooh, good
Kant,
sleep on
actually
Kant.
not throwing out the shotgun, but instead he does actually manage to pick up the kill onto NZNR, so Fireball once more will have to back off. But no, they can't. They've only got 10 seconds to go.
They have to commit right here, right now, but they're already starting to get routed by Machi. Just the sheer pressure, and with 5 seconds left, they must get on this point. DCR1 is low, commits the Earth Shatter, but he doesn't get any kills, and now Oputo's starting to open up. He already got one, and there's looking to close out this Roadhog as well. He does want to deflect. Now he's hunting for the healers. He's going to get them for sure, and the frags are going to do it. Oh, wow. They just kind of turned on the gas right at the end there, and with sheer mechanical skill, kill after kill, they close it out, and now the pressure is on Machi to do the same, or they are done for.
Now remember, every time we've seen something like this happen, like, oh, hey, they got it to the end with a respectable amount of time. In fact, actually, I think that was during overtime, so not any time to go with, but remember, we've seen the second team to attack just absolutely steamroll what the previous team did. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen here with Machi, but it's going to be what are they going to play on the attack. We talked about the possibility of Farah coming out. Will they play Mercy with it? Who knows? But I think the big thing is that because Fireball don't play Reinhardt, it could be very easy to knock them off of Big Earls.
Yeah.
I don't think Fireball will play the same way that Machi did, where they just dived literally onto the start of the payload. That gives away so much advantage from being the defenders, having that position on the high ground, making the enemy come to you, and you can stop the payload from that position. I don't think Fireball are going to make that decision, but if there's a Farah in the sky knocking you off, suddenly you have to fight.
Yeah, I want to see Rocket on the Zarya and Aputo on the Roadhog. I really feel like that's the way to deal with this.
It's a little bit too awkward because then what are you going to run for your other tank? You cannot have Zarya as your main tank. Roadhog is just is basically a DPS with a lot of
We
health.
have seen them pull out triple tank. We've seen them pull it out when necessary, and it has kind of worked. It was right on the end of Temple of Anubis. They decided to pull it out when Aputo was on the Roadhog. I mean, it can be counted out by swapping over to a Reaper, but then you can just sort of swap back to other things. When you are Fireball, and when you can take those kinds of early fights, depending on how the positioning works out, you actually have the freedom to go into triple tank, force them to change onto Reaper, just buy yourself the time, swap back your comp, bleed the clock out, and find a position to hold Machi when they've got no time.
Fireball on defense. There it is, Aputo on the Roadhog. Ladies and gentlemen, watch out for this guy. One of the best Roadhogs I've seen for a very long time. Will be able to shut down a lot of dive. Now, there's no Farah coming up for Machi. They are running the same composition that they've run basically every single game.
Yeah, and with no tank busters.
Fireball have been able to beat this composition quite a lot, but Machi, they're going to have to dive onto the girls.
The difference between this and when Fireball run it is they are running Kiyomi on the Arnis. They will actually get nano boosted Genjis. They can still shred through these tanks if Fireball aren't careful. And here comes the dive onto Big Earl. DCR1 doesn't have a ton of follow-up just yet, and Fireball are kind of happy with this one, but they are going to be forced onto this payload in a second. Oh, Nonez just barely scraping out of that one. And they're just kind of stopping Fireball from getting down onto this one. They pick off NZNR, so this is just all distance for Machi. I mean, this hold on Big Earls only matters if you're actually getting damage down. They don't really have a soldier or anyone to do that, and Kurlos is looking to get forced right out alongside Rocket, so Machi keeping the payload moving. This is huge.
And my word, Aputo not showing up on this Roadhog just yet, hasn't shut down DCR1, who to his credit has been using the terrain for an amazing amount of cover coming out from these hooks. And in fact, he actually gets the kill onto Aputo, but not before Dry gets taken out by Aputo. But with the defender's advantage being just a little bit closer here, Machi may not be able to make it here in time, but no, they've got enough people on the payload.
Yeah, and they lose NZNA here as well, so Fireball, they're not going to be able to get back onto this one. They're just sort of going to contest a little bit here. Nice moves by Kant to try and stop any kind of follow-up here to help the Winston out. And picking Rocket there, they're going to secure this first point in pretty convincing fashion, though Fireball did do the same. They've still got a long march ahead of them.
In very similar fashion, though, they have
Aputo,
so many ults left.
They've made a lot more room for themselves than what Fireball did on this, and Nonez, if he gets a good position, can just commit this Dragon Blade, get a bunch of picks. With the trace of recoil down, he might want to. They're still getting the payload moving, but it is quite slow though.
Yeah, I mean, they can just simply do what they're doing here, throwing DCR1 ahead, basically disrupting everyone, but this is going to give the chance for Fireball to regroup as a six-man and probably get a fight at the bridge, which is one of the best defensive positions on this stage of the map. If they can get here, force a fight around here, then they still have a chance of winning. For as much as we talk about Machi having enough ults during this fight, Fireball do too.
They absolutely do. Here we go. It's going to be a big one no matter who comes out on top, and it's going to be the Dragon Blade and Nano Boost combo to come out for Nonez, but he's not not found anyone, and now they've lost Kiyomi. They have traded back onto Curler, so it's the only one known as found at the end of that. Rai not finding anything either. They're currently running even, and a lot of ultimates committed on both sides, but a few more in the pocket of Fireball could be all it takes to spin this fight around. Unless Machi get a bunch of frags. Rai trying to make it happen. He's trying to keep it going, but he hasn't got much health to do it with. DCR1 going down, and I think Fireball are going to be able to secure this one.
Oh, Rai is still going though, and actually getting kills here, but the Ana's there to heal him.
The hook as well. Pudo just picking off someone else on the backside of that, and now Rocket diving in to secure Rai. Known as he's a little isolated. Well, I mean, it's working. He got two. He can't really go toe-to-toe with a Pudo, though. He can get a couple of hits, but they will get the payload moving still, so everyone just kind of blue ults, and Machi just keep making moves.
And the critical thing here is that Machi got it past the bridge. This is still going to give Fireball another shot at defending it here, but the bridge is one of the best positions. Fireball can actually can't actually use it anymore. Machi are going to be able to use it in their defense.
Can they close it out? Oh, the Pulse Bomb finding nothing, unfortunately, and Rai quite low on health. There's a couple of unfortunate picks going the advantageous way of Fireball. Apuno now holding onto a whole hog. Can commit that to secure this point, but there's still like...
The Great Escape.
Yeah, there's just under 2 minutes on this one, so I think even if they lose a fight here, Machi can still cap this point. Fireball have their work cut out for them. Machi have made a lot of ground.
Fireball is still entrenched in a pretty good position. That payload is far away from the respawn from Machi. Machi, they have almost enough ults to work with. They need Kiyomi to get that nano boost. Nonez needs to go absolutely off, but one hook from Maputo can shut that down. If Nonez gets hooked up by that, that's suddenly so many resources taken out of the fight immediately. Even if he doesn't die to the hook, that's a good 2 seconds. That's like a third of Genji's Dragon Blade, which is taken out of the fight immediately.
Kiyomi has to commit the grenade onto himself to keep him alive, and now commits the nano boost as well onto Nonez, but they haven't found anything. Finally gets Kurlos, but he can't find much more. Apudo, he didn't get a chance to use the whole hog. Now Machi, they've got a bit of an upper hand here, but losing Restia is not good news as they lose Nonez too. And again, they're running even. These scrappy fights have favored Fireball traditionally. Let's see if Machi can spin this one around. So far, it's not looking good for them. They do get 9th out of the mech though, and now Machi back onto it. The scrappy fight is starting to go their way as Fireball aren't committing to going back in with these respawns. Apudo here though with the whole hog. Maybe he can hold it out at this last moment here. They get canned out of the mech. They haven't got the kills just yet, and the whole hog is out. Nice hook. Ooh, no secure. Good sound barrier to save it, and Machi going to commit the sound barrier to keep this one alive to get the cap if they can.
And Machi with their mobile members are able to get back to this payload a lot quicker than Fireball should be expecting. This payload is inches away from getting there. It's really just Fireball throwing bodies at the checkpoint once more. Is this just going to give away too much ult charge? It's a very risky play coming up from Fireball, and with Rocket throwing out the Primal Rage as well.
So even more health for ult charge.
Yeah, exactly. That doubles the amount of health, the damage that Machi can do to him and get ults. Look at those.
They're about to all come up except for Restia, and Fireball have nothing. They've just changed off as well. They've got less than nothing. There is plenty of time here for Machi to do this. They can just hold their ults. They can trickle them one by one to get through the whole way of this one.
Oh, that was a kill. Throwing out a grenade, they're actually keeping them alive, but you're absolutely dead right. Machi with so many ults to play with. Nonez went big on the Dragon Blade before. He's got a nano boost to do it again. We'll see if that is what's going to get it for them. They get it to the first corner. This fight, if they win it, could completely take them out.
They're going deep though. Oh, they picked Kiyomi. That might just stop up this first one, yeah. But they've got other ultimates. If they get frags, they can commit to the fight still, but they aren't finding them smartly. They back off. They do allow Fireball to gain a bit of ult charge, so they're not going to have as strong an advantage as they would have had a moment ago, but this is still very much within their sights.
It could have been a lot worse, but Fireball, that's the small things that they need to get here to even up these ult charges. Like you said before, Fireball have no ults to play with, but it's also given time for Restia to get close to that sound barrier. If this fight goes for long enough, he will get sound barrier during this fight. In fact, he may even get it up before it. They should just go in now with all 6 ultimates. This is their best shot.
They have to commit, and Nonez going in with the Nano Blade as well. Here they go, they found NZNR. They need to get more. They've got 3. That could be just enough because that would have been Apudo's Dragon Blade. They've still got a couple of ults, notably DCR1 and Kant. Let's see how they choose to use them as they pick Kurlos. That means no Nano Blade combo unless they wait a long, long time. The payload is moving very steadily toward this one as they throw out the self-destruct. Rai going to try and keep this one going, and they've managed to tide themselves over. A little more ground to be gained still as they keep the payload moving. They're keeping Fireball caught up. They've got Apudo again before the Dragon Blade can be be committed. Now he's going to be a sound barrier to buy time. Yeah, the tac visor is there as they commit a nano boost as well. Rocket, though, with a ton of health, they're keeping this one alive. But Machi, they're starting to crumble.
Machi
Here
needs to back
the
out.
hold. They must back out because they may just have enough time for another fight. They can't overcommit here. Yeah, smartly, quickly, they retreat completely. Fireball are going to try and rout, but they cannot afford to overextend.
Yeah, but Fireball still need to chase this. They need to make sure that Machi have as little time to play with as possible. With Kiyomi only just respawning now, they basically have to sprint towards this point. It's going to be all on Rai to get into the payload and touch it, make sure that they can get it into overtime. But Nonez literally has to get his ult during this fight. He's got 40% to go, 30%, sorry. If he can get that, then that might be enough for them to clean it up
And
for a win.
what can Apudo get with this Dragon Blade? This could spell disaster for Machi if he gets a lot. He's got Nonez. That's Nonez. That's a big one. And Rescue as well. He is going to go down. Oh my gosh. Kills all across the board. But who's on top? It's Fireball because NZ and R are still in this fight and they get 9th out of the mech. He was going to be pretty much the last one here for Fireball. Machi, come on. What can they do? Cam's still trying to hold this fort down. He's got an ultimate and he's going to have to throw it out to make space, to buy time. They're trying to keep the payload moving. He does get back in the mech. Nonez is right.
They're actually coming
again.
back.
Nonez is not, but he's dead. It's not going to happen. Kiyomi, he's trying to keep this fight going for his team, and they are getting kills. They've got so many, but Machi, they're losing just as many, and NZNR uncontested on this high ground. Fireball. They've got it. They've done it. And that was beautiful positioning through and through.
Fireball take out the series 3-1, really playing it up for their fans. Finally we get to see the Apudo show, and oh boy did he impress today. Few mistakes here and there, but honestly the overall story is that he's here to play, and he's here to play on all these different heroes. Genji, McCree, Roadhog, it's all here today.
Yeah, but Nonez will get player of the game. Honestly, we said it right at the start before we saw Fireball play. When they were going to be coming up against Sun Sister, who were fresh off a loss, we said Sun Sister need to learn how to rally from the loss. We said Fireball need to learn how to unlock their star players. Fireball hit their stride. They have something that works. And then after that first game, we said, now we've got to see if they can continue on the upswing, if this is going to work against teams that are better than Sun Sister. Machi, unequivocally better than Sun Sister, now also fell to Fireball. And we start to ask ourselves the question, how far can this team go?
It's like they've strike down their opponent, and suddenly over the bodies of Machi, they look up and their eyes are set on Flash Wolves, on Blank, on AHQ, on Hong Kong Attitude. Fireball are going for those teams next because it's got to be their goal. It's got to be their goal to get into that top 3 to make it into the next stage after the round robin. And they've shown that they can play with very good decisions, very good mechanical skill. They said it in their intro video. Their players are mechanically very gifted. They're incredibly good. And honestly, if they can just bring their macro up to the levels of these top 3 teams, then I think they can break it.
They'll be hankering for a rematch, to be sure, against likes of Hong Kong Attitude, Blank, and AHQ. But they have yet to play Flash Wolves, so maybe that is the one they set their sights on. Maybe they are going to try and just take out one of those top contenders nice and early and establish themselves as a contender to replace that. So a lot of questions here, a lot of questions indeed. I may actually get a chance to take a look at who they're going to be playing in the near future as well. But in any case, Fireball in one night have turned everything around. They were a team with a lot of fan following, and how could you not? They're such a likable team. But now they've shown that they've got much more than likability. They have got the grit and the gumption and the skill to turn this one around.
Remember, they came into this with 0 wins, and this was also their back-to-back series. And yes, they won the first one 3-0.
Fatigue didn't get to them.
Yeah, Fatigue didn't get to them. Today, that was their 7th match today by the end of that. So the fact is, they were not faltering by the end of that. They were still playing everything correctly. And like I said, you know, occasional mistake, but sometimes that's going to happen, especially when you're playing something like Genji, where you do have to do things pretty much perfectly, especially against players who will shut you down with the Roadhog. We saw it coming out of the end for Machi. They threw in their own Roadhog, trying to channel his inner Apudo, but apparently it just wasn't enough. And Apudo and NZNR, got to give a lot of credit to them, but I'm going to say it once more, Rocket has really been impressing me on that Winston quite often, and also when he's able to swap between Winston and the Zarya still being as effective there.
His
Really
Zarya,
playing to the
yeah.
synergy of the team.
His Zarya was very solid. I'm going to be honest in saying that his Zarya isn't, the kind of Zarya you write home about.
He's no Hoo-Woo.
Yeah, I was actually about to say the exact same thing. He's no Hoo-Woo. But
Hoo-Woo's probably watching.
Yeah, only Hoo-Woo can be Hoo-Woo. Well, no, it's past Hoo-Woo's bedtime.
Who should be busy playing solo queue so we can carry
Yeah,
New
so we
Zealand to
can
the top
World
32?
Cup, please. Anyway, he is no Hoo-Woo, but he's solid enough. He's solid enough that the team can make use of it. That's going to be good enough against these other more middle-of-the-pack teams. I don't know if that's going to be good enough against the likes of, Blank and Flash Wolves, and notably Blank, actually, if we're referring to Hoo-Woo. Blank are a team that have handily beat Hoo-Woo. They have handily beat some of the best Zaryas in their region. They can definitely do that internationally, and I'm not going to call Rocket one of the best Zaryas in Asia. That's just not fair.
The other thing to mention as well is their lack of ability to play a Reinhardt composition. And playing dive every single game it's still an option you can play, and you've even got a little bit of flexibility
But
when
it
you're on
becomes
defense
readable.
with a Pudo on Roadhog. But yeah, readability, right? Any team playing against Fireball will know exactly what they can do, especially if they watch that interview where Zalfix was talking about the lack of ability for them to run a Reinhardt composition. They need to fix that ASAP.
Well, actually, the other thing is, we'll take a quick moment. We'll see the scores as they stand here now to recap the day. So for those of you who sort of only tuned in the latter half of the day to start off the night, we did see AHQ taking down Hong Kong Attitude, securing themselves in the top 3, then following it up with a win against Sun Sister, who then themselves went on to lose again to Fireball, who have again beat Machi now. So really, it's just 2 wins and 2 wins for AHQ and Fireball apiece. So stuff they can be pretty happy about. I want to go back to what I was saying a moment ago, though, about Fireball. And I touched on it very briefly. I didn't quite get a chance to kind of sound it out. They struggle a little bit with Reinhardt. They've been quite upfront about that. And Orisa has yet to really be cracked. We've yet to see teams really figure out how she fits. Now, it took a while for teams to figure out how Ana fits. It took a while for teams to figure out how Sombra fits. And even then, they aren't quite maximizing her just yet. We're starting to see the ways that she can join into a team. I think Fireball are a team that actually has to crack Orisa. Because once these teams, especially the good teams, the top of the table teams, the teams like AHQ, the teams like Flash Wolves, they're going to figure out this dive comp, man. They're going to figure out that that's all they've got. So if they can be the ones to pull out Orisa when they don't have that Reinhardt as an anchor tank, then that is going to be something else very crucially in their back pocket. I mean, you cannot last 13 weeks of tournament with one strategy.
That's a big ask, but hey, look, we're on the new patch. Orisa's head has been reduced by like 15%.
Yeah.
So, hey, look,
She had a
overpowered,
massive
right?
head, yeah.
Right? I mean, to be honest, it was pretty huge before.
Yeah, she had a surprisingly big head hitbox. I mean, for a robot tank, she was like 4 headshots away from dead. She was very squishy.
Probably should have a big head being like a big tank character, but that's a discussion to take to, the forums.
Yeah, complain to Jeff.
Yeah, go complain to Jeff Kaplan.
Please don't complain to Jeff. He's worked so hard.
He's a sweetheart.
No.
He's a sweetheart, but do make,
And
make funny videos about him.
And all we ever do is just mock him by cutting together his words in YouTube videos.
But hey, look, I mean, maybe Fireball could take a look at Jeff's child that he's made in Orisa. I'm trying to think. Creation. It's the same thing.
Maybe you can go and look at Jeff's child.
Don't. Please stop making this worse. Go take a look at Jeff's creation, Orisa, as maybe an option. But at the same time, the only time we've seen it so far in the Pacific Championship was Flash Wolves against Blank, and it was literally there for like. It didn't even make it to the point on Umbani.
Yeah.
They immediately killed
like,
Orisa, and then they're like, oh, did I pick Orisa instead of Zarya? And then swapped immediately.
Yeah, that is kind of what it looked like. But I mean, props to them for actually trying it. And over the course of this tournament, I feel like we are going to be here long enough to see a team figure out Orisa. And once that happens, we're going to see, no doubt, a race to adapt. We're going to see a mad dash, and we'll start to get another test. I mean, that's just one of the things that can kind of happen when you end up in these long-form tournaments. You see these sort of events unfold. Let's take a look now at the end of the night, a quick recap of the standings. Of course, Blank 2 matches away from finishing the first round of round robin, sitting at 5-0. Tied for second is Hong Kong Attitude and Flash Wolves, with AHQ very close behind them, having actually played one more match than Hong Kong Attitude and Flash Wolves respectively. Fireball and Machi hot on their heels, and then 2 teams still sitting at the bottom of the standings, those being Sun Sister and Detonator Gold. both yet to pick up a win.
So the big thing to note as well is that some teams have played 5 games, some teams have played 4. So there is still the opportunity for some of these teams to come out ahead, notably AHQ and Hong Kong Attitude both sitting on 3 and 1. They can set themselves a lot further ahead of AHQ if they pick up a win in their 5th match. Because that would put them at 4 and 1. However, if they lose it, then they're simply dropping themselves down to tie with AHQ, which would be around the 3rd place spot, which is really not where you're wanting to be tying. You need to get into that top 3 to move into the next round.
Basically. So just an interesting thing about what's coming up as well. Next week, Fireball have 2 matches, one being against Detonator Gold, currently bottom of the standings. I feel like it's pretty easy to call that one. I mean, I'm not gonna be absolutely nuts and go like, yeah, it's a done deal. Like, let's not try and suggest that, but I mean, they are so favored coming into that, especially after tonight, where they beat another team who is equally tied with Detonator Gold, that team being Sun Sister.
Well, they're only equally tied because Fireball beat them.
Well,
Detonator
but
was
that's
lower
fine.
before.
That's fine. Yeah, that counts. But they've also now beat Machi. Then after that, the next night, they play Flash Wolves. That's going to be the big tell.
Now, I mean, Flash Wolves being in the top 3 right now. Top 3. I believe that like they can probably take them out, but. Again, that's going to be probably the match of the week.
Yeah, now just a heads up, we do have the interview underway, so we'll see if that one is going to be in English for us, and we do actually have the same members before, so there's a good chance we'll have a bit of English in here.
我们就是现场就有2位翻译来，一个是翻英文，然后再翻成泰文这样子。好，首先呢，想要问问那个 Oputo 说，其实，在今天之前，你们队伍已经输了3场比赛，那这周的训练有些什么样的改变呢？
So until now, you guys have 3 losses. What did you do differently in practice this week?
ก็เรา
เรามีการดูแผนฝั่งตรงข้ามครับผมแล้วก็ดูว่าเราทำอะไรผิดพลาดไปบ้างแล้วก็มีการคุยกันก่อนแข่งตกลงกันก่อนว่าใครจะช่วยใครจะทำอะไรก่อนอะไรประมาณนี้ครับ
He said we have studied how to play and every strategy, how to manage all the things, and we work out.
我们有研究了非常多的战术，然后以及怎么样去打好比赛。
其实今天在拿下第1胜的时候，好像整个队伍的心理上面都有蛮自信的那个改变，对不对？是不是跟大家分享一下？
So after you guys have the first win today, is there any changes to your mind?
ใช่ครับมันทำให้เรารู้สึกว่าสิ่งที่เราคุยกันมาสิ่งที่เราตกลงกันมาหรือแบบวางแผนกันมาคุยกันก่อนแข่งเนี่ยครับมันส่งผลต่อรูปเกมจริงๆมันทำให้เรามั่นใจมากขึ้นว่าเรามาถูกทางแล้วครับ
He said everything, all the strategy that we have planned before the game start, everything affects from the beginning to the end.
他说我们之前所有的练习有出现过的问题，今天都有解决了。
今天也拿下了2连胜，刚刚也看到了排名是来到了第5名，有没有什么话想对支持你的粉丝说呢？
So you have 2 wins now, and you have two winning streak. Do you have anything you want to say to the fans?
พูดอะไรกับแฟนๆ
Well, I need Taiwan. I love you. Yeah.
非常直接的告白，非常感谢 Oputo 还有那个 Zelfix 的赛后访问，谢谢。我们今天的比赛有在这边告一段落了，非常感谢今天收看的线上观众以及现场。
Did he just dab?
That was a dab. Oputo just dabbed, and we all saw.
I can see why he has 10 million fans right now. Honestly, that guy is adorable.
Yeah, that was a joy. That interview was in all kinds of languages as well. But as much as some of the answers seemed a little bit all over the place, they actually did provide quite a bit of insight. I mean, if you look at what they're really attempting to say behind the words there, you know, they're speaking to kind of how they've planned throughout the week for these matches, and I think it did show. And to kind of go back to what I was saying just before the interview, because of the long-form nature of this tournament, and so far I've talked about a lot of the implications of that. One of the other implications of that is we start to see which teams are better able to plan for their matchups that particular week. And the ones that plan out a strategy and then show up on game day and execute on that strategy are naturally going to do better. So far, it's actually maybe looking like Fireball are one of those teams. And maybe last week, they just struggled a bit because you're going in so blind.
I mean, the best way to plan as well is to identify your weaknesses, what other teams are going to do to beat you using those weaknesses. Yeah. And, well, when you publicly say in an interview, Well, our team's not too good.
And
at
then
using
publicly
Reinhardt.
dab.
Yeah, and publicly dab. I mean, people are really going to be gunning for you then. But
Yeah.
when you say that, teams are going to be able to see that they're not confident on playing Reinhardt compositions, and that's going to be one of the biggest weaknesses over the next week. Fireball very much should plan to practice those compositions, make sure that they have them in their pocket.
Shore up your
If
weaknesses.
to make sure it's an option. Doesn't mean play it instead of the dive compositions, which they played very well. You don't want to take a Puto off that Genji nowadays, or NZNR off that Tracer, both of them playing them incredibly well, but at the same time, have it as an option. Have it so that Rocket can play Reinhardt if that is the tank player that is going to be playing on that champion.
Yeah, well, in any case, that is going to be us for tonight, and also to close out week 2. That is going to be AHQ picking up 2 wins to secure themselves in the top 3, and Fireball picking up 2 wins as well to secure themselves out of the bottom 2 and maybe actually begin their own march up towards the top 3. So for those of you who tuned in and watched all or some of the matches, thank you so much for joining us. I have been Matt Pixie Carroll. Joining me here was, of course, Matt Smite Rossen. Earlier tonight, you had the capable hands of Kevin Averill Walker and Dallas Easy Fighter. Thank you for tuning in, and from all of us here at the Full Circle production team, have a wonderful night.